Domnul dr. Ivan Caravani, președinte al Asociației Olandeze de Chirurgie Cosmetică, fondator al unei societăți de cosmetologie, lector și trainer timp de 10 ani la Spitalul Universitar din Antwerp, autor a 8 cărți, inclusiv manualul oficial olandez de chirurgie cosmetică, organizator al Congresului Mondial de Chirurgie Cosmetică în 1997 la Amsterdam, printre primii medici din lume care au injectat Botox încă din 1991, 35 de ani de activitate, una dintre cele mai mari clinici din lume, cu 40 de săli de tratament. O să las pe domnul doctor să înceapă prezentarea.
Thank you very much, Mara. Hi. We're going to choose now one patient to start with that will be treated with REYU. If you want to see a nice effect on rejuvenation, you should be already a little bit older. You understand that? If you do that on a child of 5 years old, you will not see much. Okay? So I see here a lot of very young faces. Okay? And the sagging faces, I mean, you have a good face for that, yes? Because I know, like, the thinner you face, the slimmer you face, the quicker you will see the results. Okay? So we'll start with the lady if it's good for you. But you might miss a little bit of the lecture. Okay, but maybe after 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes, what?
If I can listen?
You can hear? Yes, definitely you will be able to hear that. You will be filmed, photographed, and then after your session, again, filmed and photographed so you can see the result and feel the result. That's number one. And then we will need, after the pause, the second one and a third one. But you can start already with the lady. Okay? Yes. Fine. So, the fountain of youth. Everybody knows what the fountain of youth is? Mythology. Yes? It's like a well. You drink that water and you don't age at all. So, if this existed really, you can drink the water and you don't age and you keep your health, who would drink and who would refuse? Everybody would go for that? Yes? 100% of the people? Very good. Because these are our clients. 100% of the people want to be younger and want to be healthier. So let's see what the situation is now. This is our current crisis that we are facing. And this happens in all the countries where I go and I lecture. Yesterday we had a No-Tox Congress in Paris, France. Exactly the same situation. The last year in France they made minus 30%. 30% less income they made in last year. And that is a trend that is worldwide and it's going down and down and down. Why? The new generation of young people don't want that. The older generation are fearing the side effects because they've seen the side effects for all those years. They don't want to look like that. People who are 65 years old and older, they have time, they have money, the children left the home is being paid, the husband has a great pension, usually they inherit it from their parents, they are very wealthy, but they don't want to go with their problem to a plastic surgeon or a beautician, and we'll see in a second why. So only 4% of the population is doing what we all talk about. From the lasers, radio frequency, injectables, etc. It's all less than 4%, and in America it's 5.2%, not more. And why is that? There are many, many reasons why people don't come to us. First, it's very hard to identify the problem. You wake up in the morning and you feel that your face is not so fresh anymore. Or you look at pictures and you see, wow, is that me? But you cannot pinpoint the problem. You cannot say, this is the problem. I lack 1 milliliter of volume there, or I need so much degrees of my infrared lasers here. You cannot exactly define it. Why? Because aging is very complex, and what you see on the outside is only the tip of the iceberg. The skin is very thin. Epidermis is 0.5 millimeter. The dermis itself is a millimeter, sometimes less. It doesn't define who we are. People think it's the skin, but the skin has really nothing to do with aging. Look at that. The skin is nice. Everybody recognizes Julia Roberts. You've seen her on Netflix on the movies. She looks much older now. And it's not really the skin. It's the facial shape. And the facial shape is what? It's muscles. We told us that it's fat, but it's not. It's muscles. It's bone. It's ligaments. It's fascia. It's all these masses that we have. And people don't realize that. They don't know what's happening. So we don't even understand what aging is doing with us inside. We only look at the skin. But all these layers start to suffer, and the layer that is the least responsible for all this is the skin. The ligaments are much more important. The fascia, the muscle, the bone. These are more important. And we don't understand the structure inside. And most therapists who are occupied with rejuvenation don't even understand how the structures are inside. And they're very, 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 very complex. Even now, 99.99% of the doctors still believe that the fat and the skin are two elements that are important. They don't recognize the volume of the face, that it is muscular. Except when it's the masseter, you know the masseter muscle. To slim it, you inject Botox and you get an atrophy of the muscle and your face becomes slimmer. Asians do that, they love it. But we don't connect with all the other muscles that are injected with Botox, that these muscles also disappear when you inject them, just like when you inject the masseter for slimming of the face. So, we're not very logical when we're dealing with aesthetics. Now, second problem is, so the first problem is we don't really know what's happening inside. We don't know, the doctor doesn't know, it's a very complex situation. So you don't know what the problem really is. And the truth is, the problem is an overall aging from the bone to the skin, and you cannot treat only one element. You have to deal with everything. Second is, where do we go? From the beautician, over the dentist, and the general practitioner, and the dermatologist, and the gynecologist, and I know even radiologists are starting to inject, till the plastic surgeon. None of them will propose you a global solution, and none of them really had an aesthetic education. The plastic surgeon is reconstructive. I know plastic surgeons who finished their total education and never did a lifting of their lives. Never did a liposuction because the university doesn't teach you that. It teaches you reconstructive surgery, not aesthetics. The government does not pay for aesthetic education. It pays for reconstructive. Dermatologists that never understood injections or lasers whatsoever because it's not dealt in the faculty. General practitioners, they go to small courses here and there, okay? The beauticians, sometimes they lack this whole anatomy, what's going inside, so you don't know where to go, and none of them is fully educated. So, big problem. Third problem. When you go somewhere, you're overwhelmed by a lot of technologies. Everybody's telling you a story. Nobody knows the truth. And only a few years later, we understand that exosomes don't really work, that stem cells that are not of you have not your DNA, and they are destroyed nearly immediately, and they have no sense at all. That when you pee in the morning and you urine, you have already more stem cells of your own than the ones that you're going to be injected for $20,000. Okay? We don't know which hyaluronic acid is doing what, cross-linked, not cross-linked, and stories come all over, and then a few years later you understand that these stories were not true. They told us hyaluronic acid is dissolving by itself over time. It's not true. It never dissolves, it stays, it just moves and loses its viscosity. They told us that's really easy peasy, very simple, to dissolve it with hyaluronidase. Turns out hyaluronidase is a catastrophe, and if you start to injecting it, you also kill your own hyaluronic acid, your natural one, something that they always told us it's not. So, people are doing a lot of stupid things. Nobody knows what's working or what's not working, and we hear it only later as side effects. So it's very frightening for the patient. Then, the long-term results, the immediate results are very nice. You come in, you come out, you look okay. And you show these pictures on Instagram, before and after. But aging is not a sprint of 100 meters. It's a marathon. You take a picture when you're 20, you take a picture when you're 85, and you see how much you have changed. And did you keep really your face, or did your face change completely? And see is people don't recognize themselves anymore. They've done a lot of things and they don't recognize. So we don't deal with rejuvenation. We're dealing with creating an avatar, which maybe looks a little bit the way you looked before, but definitely not you. And that is really frightening. So the question is, what is beauty? Okay? We see here scarifications of an African tribe. Now, they make a nasolabial fold with a knife, and they call it beauty, while we take it away, and we call it also beauty. So what is in fact beauty? Beauty is a word that we use to be loved, accepted, valued, desired, to connect with people, etc. This is what we think with beauty. But not every technology will give us all these elements that we desire. Healthy beauty gives you a greater chance on survival. Why? You feel safe, you feel sexy, you feel loved, and you feel special. The same elements that a dog has for its survival. He wants to be fed and felt safe. He wants to reproduce and mate with another dog and have nice little dogs. And he wants to be special. He wants to be your boss. And people fight always who will be the boss, the dog or them. So, beauty means more income statistically. 9 to 15% more income. 3 to 7 years a longer life. More children. A better genetic partner. That's why people do that. But there are serious conditions. Okay. When we go to the market and we are buying fruits and vegetables, we look for nice fruit and vegetables, right? Everybody's looking for nice fruit and vegetables, but they will never be on a catwalk. You will not photograph them on Instagram. You will chop them in pieces. You will put them in a soup. You'll do whatever it is, but you will never recognize. So why bother with nice vegetables and fruits? Because we expect a nice fruit and vegetable to be also healthy inside. Okay? That's why we do that. So we have those beautiful elements and we say, okay, because they are beautiful, they are healthy inside. Now what happens if the merchant of your vegetables start painting rotten apples green? So you buy it, you say, well, what a beautiful green apple, you cut it in two and it's totally waste inside. You will never trust him again, right? Because he did something to the apple that is not natural. Now they've done tests with animals, with chimpanzees. They took the female chimpanzee and they groomed her a little bit. You know, a little bit of washing, a little bit of combing, nothing special. But she's already better than the natural one, which is a bit groomed, but only washing and grooming. All the males went to her, so she had an advantage. Then they started to change her completely by doing a little bit surgery. The lips, they painted it red and things and that, and then all these males were shocked and they left her because they sensed that something is wrong. Okay? And this is what's happening now. People don't have natural faces, so all the biological advantages of being beautiful is fake, and we don't connect it with health. So these are three ladies of exactly the same age. The pictures that are taken now, they were like 59 years old. One, Gillian McCabe, didn't do anything, but really anything. No rejuvenation technologies, nothing. Meg Ryan did everything she could with a lot of hyaluronic acid. And Nigella Lawson did from time to time something that would really rejuvenate her from the middle, and you see that there is a serious difference when you reach 60 and between the technologies that you're using. Don't forget, your hyaluronic acid will start to swell, it will become double and even more the volume that it has. So we need now a solution because we are going downhill. We are losing patients and income at the rate of 25% a year, okay? We have 96% of the patients that don't trust us to come, and the number is growing. So if we don't do anything, we will close our businesses in 5 years' time. Competition is high. I see clinics asking now for Botox less than I used to ask 35 years ago. Can you imagine? So it's not a good business anymore, and it's declining. And doctors understand that, beauticians understand that. What do we need? We need to understand the real cause of aging from the inside. Why do we age? Nobody examined why we age. Can somebody state me why we age? Except the time? Does somebody know that, why we age?
Cortisol?
Cortisol? Cortisol is not really the reason why we age.
That means stress
You-
and tiredness and everything.
Cortisol is a side effect of aging. You give cortisol to a young person, doesn't age. He starts swelling. These are all consequences of what you lose when you age, but it's not the cause. You give a young person estrogens, or you take it away, they don't really age. You take a 20-year-old girl, you block the estrogens, she won't age. When we are 50 and we lose estrogen, we age. But why is that? It's not because we lose estrogen, it's a side effect. A young girl who loses estrogen will not age. Just like a young girl who takes cortisol, she will not age.
Collagen. We lose collagen, we don't produce anymore.
We don't produce any more collagen. So collagen is produced by who? The fibroblast. Question is, why does the fibroblast produce less collagen?
Noxes, less of oxygen.
There you go, less of oxygen, but it's still not the main cause. But you're very, very close. And we'll see why we have lack of oxygen. Okay? So you see, we are here, a whole room, and you're not the only ones. I give lectures at university. I was invited to the University of Paris, University of Kent. Doctors don't know that, why we age.
Water?
Water? Not really. Not really. We can talk about water later, that we drink toxic water. Our water is not structured, it's full with microplastics, but it's not necessarily the water, and we will deal with that in a few minutes, you'll understand. So, we don't understand the real cause. Then, we have such a complex situation. We look in the mirror, we look at pictures, we understand that we are not 20 anymore, but we don't understand what really happened inside. The doctors don't even understand what happened inside. We don't know where to go, we don't know who's educated. See what I mean? We don't know what technology to use and how we will look later on. It's a very big mess. That means that 96% of the ladies with money, because we thought they don't come because there are no money. What do we see now? People with less income come to be injected, and people with a very high income don't go to clinics. So it's not an effect of money, not a matter of money. Okay? So it's a matter of confusion. People are confused and a lack of trust. They need something simple. They need, when they come to a doctor or a clinic or beautician or whatever, they know they will be fine. They will be relaxed, they will be okay. Okay? And we don't have the simplicity. Simplicity sells. Complexity does not sell. And then we need a better solution that takes into account all the things, from the skin till the bone, over the muscles, the ligaments, the nerves, the vessels, etc., and from the clavicula, where the platysma starts, up to the head. We don't have that solution for the moment. We are trying to take problem by problem and inject it and burn it separately. And that's not the way to get a holistic and nice face. So, here we come to the reason why we age. The second law of thermodynamics is a universal law. It's not only valid for the planet Earth, it's valid for all the galaxies together, the universe, which says a structured element will lose its structure and will disintegrate over time because it's lacking this energy. That means you take a cube of ice, you put it on the table, half an hour later it melts and it becomes room temperature. You take a glass of hot water like tea, you put it on the table, half hour later it's cooled off and it has the room temperature. Everything in the world goes from order to chaos over time. And the chaos and it disintegrates. Same counts for the leaves, same counts for a grape that becomes a resin and it's completely disintegrated. And this is something that should happen for humans too. Like in a week, like an apple, we should be dead. But we are an open system, which means we can accept energy from the outside and keep ourselves structured. And the energy that we take from outside is feeding mitochondria in every cell. You heard about mitochondria? And these mitochondria, they produce small batteries, ATP, and they charge these batteries like 1,500 times a day, 1,000 to 1,500 times. And these small batteries, they activate the whole system so that we can keep ourselves alive and structured. Over time, these mitochondria age and they get defects and we cannot anymore recharge all this ATP and we start to age and we become from a regular phase, we become an irregular phase, and after a while, we don't even exist and we die. The skin gets a different structure, everything is aligned in one direction, the microstructure is different, and it goes to an old age, and everything inside is having the same thing. So here we got a cell. We got a load of mitochondria inside the cell, really a lot. And these mitochondria, in order to create ATP, these small rechargeable batteries, they need two things. They need electrons and they need oxygen. And this oxygen is also depending on electrons, as we will see a bit later. And if we don't have that, we die. But if I say we die, the same day. That's how fast it goes. Because they need to recharge this mitochondria. We have 50 grams of ATP in us, and it's recharged. So we end up with 70 kilograms of ATP a day. We don't carry 70 kilograms. We carry only 50 grams, and we need to recharge that constantly. So, where do we get these electrons and this oxygen? We get electrons from the ground, from the floor, but I mean not this floor, real ground, outside, with your feet in the grass. That's where you will get your electrons. And we get our oxygen from breathing, not normal breathing, deep breathing, slow breathing, 5.5 cycles a minute. That's where we get the oxygen from. Okay? Good. And this is converted into ATP. Now, what else is important? The right food. To get the right food, and with right I mean non-processed food, the way nature made it. Not to take an orange and squeeze it and make orange juice. That is not natural food. Okay? So we can cook the proteins of the meat and the fish a little bit to make it more digest, but our ancestors didn't do that. They chewed a lot, and they had big jaws and big macetos and good teeth because they really chewed it for a half an hour, this meat. Secondly, sleep. During the sleep, we repair a lot. We have growth hormone that's coming out at night, and we repair it. Exercise to get our circulation going, but also to get our heart to be a flexible muscle, and we understand later why it is so important. And then the sunlight, mainly the sunlight of the morning, which is converted, the photons are converted into electrons. So, as the body is electric and everything is moving around, we need electrolytes to get these electrons around in our body. So our body is not 70% water. Our body is 70% a water with electrolytes, and when you go to a hospital, you get injected with a Baxter that has electrolytes and not just plain water. You will die for plain water. Plain water doesn't transfer this electricity. So, the human body contains about 60 minerals. We sweat, we urinate, we lose these minerals constantly, and we replace them by 2 minerals, NaCl of our kitchen salt. This is why kitchen salt is so toxic. But if you take sea salt, that has already 60, 70 different minerals, it becomes extremely healthy. So we need much more minerals than only kitchen salt. And why is that? Because our cell, to be active and dynamic, it needs to be at minus 70 millivolts inside. And it does that by expulsing all the positive ions and keeping only the negative ions inside. So if you don't have enough electrolytes, you cannot create a battery of minus 70 millivolts, and so you will drop your energy. And at minus 20 millivolts, that's when you have cancer cells. Cancer cells that are at minus 20 millivolts. If you want to treat that, you higher your energy up to minus 70 with electrons and with electrolytes. And when you're at minus 90, the cell has enough energy to double itself and enter a mitotic state, become mitosis, split in two, and you regenerate. So, we have 37 trillion cells at minus 70 millivolt. That's a hell load of batteries that keep us alive, and this is the energy to fight aging. This is how we are meant not to disintegrate according to the second law of thermodynamics. All this electricity is conducted throughout the body by one of our biggest organs, is the fascia, which runs from the feet to the head, from the skin to the bone. Nobody walks naked inside the body. Everybody has a coat of a fascia. And this fascia is one of the major elements to fight aging, to fight pain, to fight muscular problems. Our muscles are not so much the problem. It's more the fascia around the muscles who are a problem. If you have fibromyalgia, it's more the fascia, it's not so much the muscle. So, by pressing on the fascia, you can generate electricity. This is why having a massage is such a pleasant experience, because you get electrical impulses generated by compressing the fascia. So here we are. This is what we need. Electrons, minerals, oxygen in the air, but the most of the oxygen in the world is in the sea and is produced by plants that live in the sea. We have in the sea more oxygen than we have in the air. Okay? Electrons are in the soil, in the earth, contact with the earth, and the minerals are living in salted seas. So let's see a little bit what's happening in our little world where we live. So here's the champion. The champion is the forever living medusa. Okay? The jellyfish is living forever. It doesn't die. And when something happens like a stress, it can rejuvenate itself easily. It goes from 5,000 years to 1 year in a second. It can regenerate itself. Imagine that we could do that. You're 65, you get your pension from the government, and up in a switch, you're 20. Would be nice, no? Well, the jellyfish can do that. And why? First of all, he's in the water with electrolytes. He's in the water with oxygen. And he is in the water in contact with the soil with electrons. He has all the 3 ingredients to keep our cells active and alive. So, he's the champion of survival. Second one are the trees. Trees never die. They cannot rejuvenate themselves, but they never die. Biologically, they don't die. They can fall off, they can break, they can have diseases. We can chop them off, but from themselves, biologically, they don't die. We have trees that are over 5,000 years old. Now, why? They have roots, and from the roots, they can collect water and minerals from the soil. They have electrons from the soil, and they have oxygens from their leaves. Okay, so that becomes very interesting. And through fungi, they connect one with another through the forest. Now, hugging a single tree is not so much energy. But when they are connected to a forest, they have much more energy. If you live on an island and you go and try to charge your batteries, you will have like a fluctuation in the current. But when you go to the mainland and you do the same thing, you have a stability because you have a bigger network of electricity on the mainland than on an island. So, the bigger the forest, the more energy. The next in championship is the Greenland shark. The Greenland shark is not Donald Trump, but it's an animal who lives 500 years. And why? It's bathing in the same electrolytes as the shark, God bless you. It has the oxygen, okay? It has the electrolytes, it has the electrons, he has the oxygen. He is not so permeable as the jellyfish was 99% water, but still, and he lives in a very cold climate, and the colder the climate, the longer you live. Okay? In hot climates, you don't live long. In the sun, you live long, but not in hot climates. That's why the blue zones are in places where there is sun, but where there is a mountain and a cool atmosphere. Because if it's hot in the desert, you won't live long. The fourth one is the Bermuda tortoise. That means he lives in contact with the land, he goes in the sea, and he can hold his breath 30 minutes long on the water, which means a lot of oxygen upload, a lot of contact with electrons, a lot of electrolytes, eats green leaves, so he lives 250 years. We go to the birds. Birds live much longer than their counterparts that live on Earth with the same weight. If you take like a mouse or a rat, which have the same weight sometimes as a bird, they live a much shorter life than a bird who can live up to 70 years. Why? They have a very big heart and a great circulation, and they produce a lot of energy with this heart because they have to fly with big wings. So here are the 6 currencies that you need in your bank account if you want to live a long and healthy life. Electrons, electrolytes, oxygen, live in a cold climate, breathe deeply with a lot of oxygen, and have a heart which can pump freely through everything. Walking on the beach, walking barefoot in the woods, and having the morning sunlight is a very healthy activity if you want to be and remain young. This is where I live. I live on a lake and in the Baltic, near the Baltic Sea and near the forest. And if you watch what's happening on this horizontal line, you see that my forest stretches around the world. I can reach Japan and I can reach nearly the north of Canada without even going away from the forest, so the network is immense of electricity. I call that the future green zones. The climate is becoming warmer, so you have more sun, we have more electrolytes, we have more electrons, we have more oxygen, so these will be places where people will live longer with time. Bioelectricity drives our rejuvenation. Doesn't come from me, it comes from people who did a lot of work in Tufts University, in Harvard University, And we will see later how they talk about electricity. So, what did we do till now? We didn't take into account how we age. So we lived a little bit like the student who doesn't want to study. He downloads a diploma from internet, he fills in his name, and he goes to work with that, but after a while, they understand that he doesn't know the business, he doesn't know his job, and they fire him. This is what we do when we are 60, 65, we look very strange, we don't look young anymore, and people understand that we cheated. Second one is what we call now rejuvenation, which is a false term. We do not rejuvenate with all these injections of exosomes, of PRP, of whatever stem cells, etc. We don't rejuvenate. We borrow elements from the outside that we are supposed to build ourselves as young people, and we inject them, and we get dependency from these injections. It's like saying you inject insulin and your diabetes is gone. Absolutely not. You borrow this insulin from an injection. It's like telling I'm injecting Ozempic, and so I don't need to produce my GLP-1 agonist. I will borrow it from the exterior. This is not rejuvenation. This is basically being dependent on your tutor who does the homework for you, who goes with you to the exams, and you get a diploma, but it's not your diploma. Without this tutor, you cannot do anything. Real rejuvenation is if you are a student, and you go, and you study, you get your own diploma, you know what you're doing, and at the end, you can function independently. Okay? So, we are not yet at a moment and a place with the technology that we have till now, except what I'm going to show you later, we are not yet in the rejuvenation world. We are in the assisted rejuvenation. Now, here we are. Our lady from like 20 minutes ago who said oxygen. So, the truth is, yes, when we look at aging, we see two elements. We see that the oxygen levels in the red blood cell are 40% less. And we see that the blood flow is 2.6 times slower. So it's like a bus who has 40% less passengers, and instead of coming every hour, he comes every 2.6 hours. This is our oxygen molecule, electrons. How are they related? Well, on the red blood cell, the only cell who can catch your oxygen, we have hemoglobin molecules, 250 million of them, and they have 4 positions of iron. And iron is an element that can be bivalent, which means it can be 3+ or 2+. Only the 2+ can catch your oxygen. So we need about 250,000 hemoglobin times 4, that's 1 billion oxygen atoms that are 2+. And then we can catch a lot of oxygen. So a real billionaire is somebody who has 1 billion positions in his red blood cell to catch oxygen. Now people ask me, if I go into a hyperbaric chamber, how does it work? You will get more oxygen near your red blood cell, but you will need an activated red blood cell with electrons to catch that. It's like you enter in a shop of Chanel, all the bags are there, but your credit card is empty. You will get out without bags. So you need a charged credit card, and you need the bags in the shop, both to be successful. So what happens with the red blood cell when it's charged? It has all this oxygen and it becomes negative on the outside. We call it the zeta potential. When it's negative, it repulses each other, so we have less agglutination or aggregation, and that means that the flow becomes better. We don't have the rouleau formation. all the scientific studies are there. So when you don't clump it, you have a better flow. And we remember, we need to enhance the flow from 2.6 times to 1 time. So we need it to flow easily through the blood vessels. And how does it happen? Well, we got a glycocalyx on the outside, a coating. And when this coating changes to negative, then we have a negative charge around the blood vessel. Negative and negative will repulse the red blood cell to the center. And when it's entering in the center, it goes through the blood vessel without any friction. And when it goes without any friction, we have like a very high speed, like the magnetic trains in China, who go 1,000 kilometers an hour without any effort. Which means that the heart doesn't have to pump so much, because the heart is a very weak pump. It's between around 40 watts, even less. And we have a left and a right ventricle who are pumping, who are nearly the same size, and they do 2 different cycles. One goes only to the lungs, and the other one does the whole body. It's like you would have 2 pumps. One is pumping Bucharest, and the other one is pumping the whole of Europe, and they're exactly the same size. So you would ask yourself, is it really a pump? Yes, but a very small one. It just pushes it from the beginning, but for the rest, it does something totally different. It creates a vortex. We have 7 facets, and these 7 facets of the pump, they contract. And when they contract, they create a vortex, like a tourbillon. And when they create this vortex, they generate electricity within the red blood cells, so they can catch the oxygen when they arrive in the lungs. And this is necessary. You need a heart that is well developed. Remember the bird. Well-developed heart that can open itself up. Why open itself up? Because the more he has this distance to the contraction, the more vortex you create. If you punch me like a millimeter from my skin, even if you are Mike Tyson, you could not hurt me. But if you go like 1 meter and punch me, you've got a lot more power, okay? So that's why it's so important. Another thing that's very important is to keep your emotions stable and positive, because this will block your heart from generating electrons, and you will suffer. This is why people who live with a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, they will die sooner, because they are not able to produce as much electrons with every contraction. So, and we know that, because in every language we are talking about acidity when we are angry, okay? I believe you have the same thing here, that you talk about the acid that we produce when we are not happy, yes? So the sour face, sourness. Why is that? Because when the pH goes lower, you produce less electrons. You have also less voltage within your cell. So if you say, okay, I have cancer and I want to do something immediately, the first thing to do is to higher your pH. Higher your pH, get more oxygen and get more electrons. This is a very fast way to get a little bit healthier. So I will not put Stephanie Seneff on that necessarily, because what she says is, once the red blood cells, or maybe yes, I don't want to sound too much boring and too scientific, but
so when that system falls apart, lots of bad things happen. So here's a picture, very schematic, of red blood cells traveling through the capillary. They're very crowded in the capillary. It's a very tight squeeze. They decorate themselves with sulfate outside their cell, and they deliver that sulfate as they pass through the capillary. They shed it, and they're therefore shedding negative charge. And that negative charge is then building up along the capillary wall. And it's very interesting, because as they do this, by the time they get to the vein, and all of them are shedding their negative charge, this creates a battery between the artery and the vein, which then actually propels the red blood cell through the artery, through the capillary, because it's attracted to the venous side because of this battery. it's attracted to the cathode, and that will pull the red blood cell through so that the heart doesn't have to work so hard to pump. And furthermore, these layers, these sulfated layers along the wall of the capillary are very slick, thick jello. The red blood cell can just slide through almost frictionless effort to get through that capillary. When these things break down, the red blood cell gets stuck and you have a no-flow situation. So basically, this voltage change that's created by the red blood cell itself actually drives the red blood cell through the capillary and makes the blood flow properly.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit of explanation. A red blood cell is 8 microns thick. And the capillaries, these are the very, very small vessels that go to every cell and give you the oxygen. They are only 4 microns. So how does a red blood cell of 8 microns enter through a vessel of 4 microns when the pressure is 0 at the entrance of the capillary? There are 2 mechanisms. Because the red blood cell is charged with electricity, it can mold itself into a small thing. It becomes like moldable, like plasticine. And the second thing is, the capillaries change the voltage and the current at the end on the venous side, and they become positive, so they attract electrically the red blood cell to the other side without a thermodynamic effort, but just an electrical one. Okay? So it's very important to understand our circulation is essentially electric. So here we see the capillaries, you see the very small ones here, okay? And we'll see now how the blood flow goes in a normal state. This is in vivo microscopy, okay? So, and now we are looking at what's happening if you see the red blood cells going through the capillaries, very thin. Okay, and now we're adding electricity to the concept, bioelectricity, and this is what's happening. See the difference? Much faster, less resistance, more moldability of the red blood cell. This is not a new concept, this is already known. The problem is it never reached doctors and certainly not beauticians in understanding how things go. But if you add bioelectricity to the system, you get a better blood flow. And this better blood flow will arrange all your problems. The fibroblast that needs to produce collagen and hyaluronic acid and elastin, this fibroblast needs oxygen. Otherwise it doesn't work. So there is no sense of starting to stimulate a fibroblast that is getting older. We have to make him younger. And when he's younger, we don't have to stimulate him. Nobody gets to stimulate the skin of a young girl of 10 years old with microneedling. You don't do that. Everything is fine. So our idea is not to stimulate an old cell with doping. The idea is to get this cell to become younger by giving him oxygen, and we'll see that we give him a lot of nutrients. So I want to stop here for a minute because I want to be sure that you do follow all that, or if you want me to skip it all together because it's too scientific. So how does it sound for you all? Interesting or Chinese? Yes? We get insights on what's going on. Okay. We'll go a little bit further and then we'll take a break. Good? Fine. But it's quite important to understand what's going on because till now we didn't even dive into aging. Oh. So, here we have the first loop. Blood that goes from the heart to all the tissues and comes back through the venous side and gives information and nutrients and oxygen and comes back with CO2, etc. and keeps our system alive. The second system that is kept alive is the nervous system. Why? The nerves are made out of 2 living cells. The neuron and the cell of Schwann, which accelerates the speed. Both of them are living cells, and of course, they need oxygen. Okay, now what is the cell of Schwann? It blocks and it keeps gaps. So imagine you take the longest street of Bucharest. What is the longest street of Bucharest? Nobody knows? What?
Maghiero.
Maghiero. How long will it take for you to go by foot from one end to the other?
Half an hour.
Half an hour.
For me.
Good. Imagine that you can jump every 500 meters. You will do that in less than a minute, right? So the body created these Schwann cells, so you will have to jump. And why do you need to jump? Because you need a speed of 120 meters per second to communicate with the whole body easily. If it's too slow, the speed, and the speed of the messages that come back are too slow, you will have a lot of problems. And we will see very soon what's going on. So you send somebody a text, what are we eating tonight? And you get a text back 3 weeks later, I bought a pizza. It's a message that doesn't serve you anymore. So you become a bit deficient in connection, okay? So the action potential, which means the sense that needs to be transferred by the nerve, is very slow and broken. So we need that speed to control the muscle, and to control the autonomic system, and to control the sensory nerves, so that our body can function. And we have a loop going from the brain through the spine, that's still the central nervous system, and then we got the peripheral with motor nerves, afferent and efferent, and then we got the autonomous system going and back, and then we got the sensory system going back. And when these start to fail, we will have several problems. We'll have problems with the muscles that cannot have a tone and do not relax. We will have autonomous problems, and we talked about the bladder and the urethra that will not function well, and we'll have sensory problems like neuropathy of the feet, for instance, or can be solved very easily by activating these nerves. So the nerves, they have one major job, and that is to clean our system through the lymphatics, because they will talk to the lymphatics so that they can clean and activate the lymphatics easily through their action on the nodes. All this is documented by scientific studies, so nothing that I'm telling you is coming from me. It's coming from scientific studies in major universities, MIT, Stanford, Harvard, Louvain, and others, but they, for some reason, they never reached you, so you would understand what's really going on. So, 3 major organs, central organs, because we call them central organs because they are connected with the whole body, while all the other organs are peripheral organs, just connected with the central ones and back. And these central organs, they monitor day and night, every second, every millisecond, what's happening in your cells and in your body. They send signals to these organs, and they get signals back, and that's how they repair our body day and night, when the problem is still an energetic signal. We, as doctors, as therapists of all kinds, we cannot read this electronic signal. Only the body can read it from the inside. We cannot react immediately. We need that the patient will have a symptom, which is a later stage. He will have to detect the symptom, it will have to bother him, and then he takes an appointment, he comes to us, we examine, we take tests, we give him a treatment, we send him home, we ask him to come back a month later. You see how slow the process is, and we see that at a much later stage, the stage of the symptom. Now, when you have a symptom that you would categorize as aging, imagine, the skin is sagging, it's not so fresh anymore. Okay, you say, I'm aging a little bit. You have to understand that you have this problem for at least 15 years inside your face. Okay? When you have a heart attack, the heart attack started 15 years ago. When you have an aging face, it's not from today, it's 15 years ago. So if you tackle the problem of now with radiofrequency First of all, you don't deal with the main problem, and secondly, you will have problems coming up every year and every half year because they are waiting in line. They are already existing for 15 years. So, and you don't see them now. They will come out and they will come out. And so, at that moment, when you treat the face and the neck as a whole, you're also solving all these things that will come up 10, 15 years later at a stage where there are still a signal and not yet a symptom. So don't bother about the symptoms so much. Understand that it's, let's say, the tip of the iceberg, and you will have to treat everything from the inside so people can stay young for a very, very long time. So, we understand that the intestines, they have the cells of Cajal, which is a pacemaker. They create electrical impulses to get our intestines very active. There is even an electrogastrogram. I believe doctors among us never heard of an electrogastrogram, although if you Google it in 5 minutes you will find it. The industry doesn't want us to know that even, because we can arrange the motility of our intestine without pills. We don't have to have laxative pills. We can get a good bowel movement only by activating the motility of our intestines electrically. So we see that the 3 loops that we have start with an electrical impulse generated at the central organ, and we can record them. The strongest is the electrocardiogram, which is normal because it's our generator of electricity. And it's our main organ because it sends 10 times more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the intestine through the vagus nerve. We've got the electroencephalogram and the electrogastrogram. They run through loops that are electrical, and they are driven by electrolytes. Electrolytes are components that diffuse in water into a positive and a negative ion, because water does not conduct electricity, neither does the skin.
Pure water is not conductive. By adding salt as an electrolyte,
See, you put a little bit of salt,
and the lamp
and
goes
here
on.
you have the connection, and the electricity can go through. Okay? So central organs, they sense the trouble electrically as a signal, and they give the answer for the repair and back. So our cells are thus visited. How long are they? They're visited at least once a minute, because this is the heart pulse, okay? 60 per minute. So imagine every minute a team knocks on your door, comes in, brings you all the oxygen you need, brings you all the food you need, brings you all the messages you need, and goes out from the other door with all the waste products, with carbon dioxide, okay, and with the feedback to the brains. Let's see. So we have the 3 central organs, we have the peripheral organs around it, and that's how we stay young. We call it homeostasis. Repair and keep and maintain our situation. So homeostasis is actually our self-healing through biofeedback loops and bioelectricity. And if you do that, you correct your body and you can maintain your body. Now, what happens with time? We understood that the mitochondria are aging also. Why? Because we, personally, we kill them every day. We don't eat the right food, we don't have the right emotions, we don't sleep on time, etc. So we damage them. Luckily, we go and sleep at night, and there we cannot do much damage. And if we sleep well and we have all this growth hormone repair, we might survive a long life. But otherwise, we will have neuropathy, we will have vasculopathy, and we will have lymphopathy. And they start really to be like apparent at the moment where our reproductive age stops, which is around 50-55. So when people show me pictures on Instagram before and after of 20, 30, 40 years old girls, and even 50, I mean, it's a joke. We didn't even start to age. Show me somebody who is 65, 75, and then we will see how aging works. What is a before and what is an after? A picture of when you were 20 and a picture when you were 75. Then we talk, because life is a marathon. It only starts at the age of 50, 55. Now, you would like to wonder how many of these patients there are? The majority. The majority of the people, they are 65, the children are married or at least out of the house is paid, the car is paid, the husband is already on pension, he got a big check when he's on pension. Your parents, unfortunately, they died when you're 65 because they were 85 or 90, so you have this inheritance on top of it. You have a lot of time, you have a lot of social activities, you want to look good, and then you don't know what to do. You go to a plastic surgeon and he wants to do a lifting. You say, no, don't cut my face, I'm a very happy man and woman, I'm happily married, I have great children, I have great grandchildren, I don't want them. I don't need to look for another man or woman. Then you go to a dermatologist or a doctor. And they say, you know what, we're going to inject you, we're going to tighten your skin with lasers. And they know how these women look like, and they say, no, this is really not for me. Then the beautician will say, you know what, we'll pamper you, will feel better, but you don't really get a mental relaxation, because that's electric on its own, and you say, I don't want to be pampered, and I'm happy with my husband, I'm happy with my wife. I want to do something that is really rejuvenating me and not bringing side effects. And by the way, I see all your possibilities here. We don't know what I have inside, and all these injectables and lasers, you don't know what they do on the long term. So drop the whole thing. And here we have a gigantic population which wants to do something. They have the time, they have the means to do that, they want it, and they're not in a rush of how many sessions, how many this, how many that. They have time. And you're not on their list. Isn't that a problem? I think it's a problem. Because there are at least 60% of the population that would come to you, but you're not on their list. Because you don't talk their language. You don't say it's going to be 100% natural, it's going to be non-invasive, it will give you a great feeling, you will rejuvenate slowly. They have time. They don't want to have something for tomorrow. Nothing is happening tomorrow. There is maybe a party, but there will be a party in 6 months too, and they will not change the partner. So these are the people you need to attract, because they have nobody yet. And if you don't attract them, the next center will attract them just across your street. Now, what does bioelectricity also deliver? Connection between the cells. We thought always that every cell lives apart and that only brain cells communicate. Turns out that not only brain cells communicate, but also skin cells, otherwise they wouldn't know that they belong to one family. They work as a family. There is an electrical cohesion between the cells of the same organ, and that's why they function as an organ. You will see that hair follicles, if they function as an organ, they will produce much better hair, and the same for the skin. So we need to connect them electrically. Now, I'll show you a video of Professor Michael Levin and how he talks about connection between the cells, neuron cells, or other cells. If we have a hope of something, it doesn't come from one cell, it comes from a bunch of cells who are programmed together to have that hope or that dream.
What if the most important intelligence isn't in your brain at all, but is instead encoded into electrical conversations happening between trillions of cells? At Tufts University, Dr. Michael Levin tells us about the future of medicine by revolutionizing our understanding of biology. How so? He decodes these bioelectric signals, the recently discovered language that tells cells what shape to build, how to repair damage, and even when to become cancerous.
Refers to the ability of cells and other biological components to communicate in electrical networks. We have hopes and dreams and memories and the preferences that our individual neurons don't have. What underlies all of that is the electrical network that enables the collective to process information that no individual part can process. Cells have little tiny proteins on their surfaces which can open and close to let in charges. So things like potassium and chloride, these charges go in and out and they become unbalanced. There ends up being a voltage gradient, like a little battery, a difference across the membrane. And that voltage difference can be felt by neighboring cells. It's really a magical thing where the content of the thoughts of the system manipulate the system itself. You end up with this mind-body interface. How can information have a physical effect in the world? This is it right here. As soon as you've made cells connected by, for example, voltage-gated ion channels, you now see that the information patterns that they process now affect the system, the structure of the system, and the way that it will process information in the future.
So you see that, in fact, without this cellular cohesion, we cannot get a nice skin. There are a lot of studies on that. So if you want to have an even skin, a nice skin, you need all these cells to be connected electrically and to talk to each other. And they do that through ion channels. So the next thing is, we nearly finished with that, the fascia. The skin is very thin, is basically managing the color of our skin, but not much more. The rest is happening in the fascia underneath. They give us the tension, they communicate, they activate through nervous, lymphatic, and other systems, and they are the ones that not only we must preserve, but stimulate. And you do not stimulate it by killing them with heat, whether it's radio frequency, whether it's infrared lasers, HIFU, whatever it is, no. You do that by bioelectricity. So this fascia needs to be cherished because this is your skin tension. Okay? And this skin tension goes further down and connects to ligaments, to retaining ligaments, connects to compartments, connects to the SMAS, connects to the muscles, connects to the bones. It's not the skin who lifts the face, it's the muscles who lift the skin. And we will see that very soon. Now, a sixth element out of the 7 is the activation of, how would I say, repairing mechanisms in the body. We have built in our body a repair system. First of all, degranulation of the thrombocytes. Thrombocytes are small cells who are circulating in the blood. And whenever there is a problem, the body calls 911 or 112. What is the number here in Romania? What do you call it? What? 112. So it calls 112, thrombocytes are coming, and they repair. Okay? Fine. This is what they do. Because the body doesn't have time to call a doctor from the outside, and we were created at the time where there were no doctors. We had to solve the things by ourselves. Now, everything is fine, except that orthopedic surgeons have a few organs that don't have much blood. The articulations, the cartilage, the bone, the tendons, they don't have much blood. So they said, what if we took blood from other organs, we centrifugate it, 60 milliliter, we take these thrombocytes and we inject them through echography to the places, etc. For them, it works. For us, it's totally nonsense. We have already blood in the systems. We don't need that. Now, when we traumatize our systems with microneedling, etc., we create this 112, which is thrombine. This thrombine is released. They understand that there is a problem there. They go there, they aggregate, they release everything, and everything is going fine. We don't need to bring them specifically this blood. Only traumatizing it is enough. That's why all the studies with needling versus PRP show that it's exactly the same. And if you still want to use PRP, you need 60 milliliter, you need a double centrifugase, you need to see that your blood is okay, because if your triglycerides are too high, or whether you took non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, it drops. So the quality of your red blood cell, of your blood is important. The way you centrifugate that, the way you extract it, the way you inject it in the dermis, which is extremely painful, and not below where it goes to waste. Okay, all these things are important, and then you have to repeat it regularly because your in an assisted way of rejuvenation, so you cannot produce it, you have to have it from a doctor that injects it. It's really a no-go. Now, what we see that instead of creating a trauma and having the thrombine, studies have shown that electromodulation releases the granules in the platelets, which are in situ, which means on the spot itself, and you don't have to bring blood from elsewhere. You have 600 milliliter ready on your face, you have 700-800 ready on your skull. There's absolutely no need to bring it from elsewhere. You're not in the same situation as orthopedic surgeons who have zero or no blood at all, okay? So keep that in mind. By the way, we call it sometimes PRP, which means placebo for rich people, okay? So that's how we joke about it, and that's why you will hear that it doesn't work. And if it works, sometimes it's because of the needling. But you don't need even to needle it. You can do that without the pain. We also produce our own exosomes, mind you, okay? And we produce a lot of our own stem cells we produce, or everything that you get injected for a lot of money, we make them themselves. The last one is electrons bring to our cells an anti-inflammatory activity, which means inflammation goes down. Inflammation is one of the harshest forms of aging. So adding electrons or sitting with your feet on the grass or on the ground will cut down inflammation. And here we come to the 7 actions of electrons. We get more oxygen, we get the nerves corrected, we get the lymphatics corrected, we get cellular cohesion, fascial integrity, anti-inflammatory, and regenerative ingredients. Now, electricity exists for over 100 years in a therapeutic fashion. There is even a Nobel Prize which has been attributed in 1963. It didn't get much attention because in 1964, Crick and Watson got the Nobel Prize for DNA, and that overshadowed everything. Major universities are talking about electron, like microbiome. There are books about that. So if everything existed, the question is, what are we doing? Why do we exist? What is the advantage? But in fact, we took all this knowledge and we implemented new electronics, new components, and we added 65,000 lines of coding, of software. And we created something that is modern. We all know the phone, the old phone with the horn, okay? So we didn't invent the phone when the smartphone came, but we made it a lot easier. Now everybody has that in his pocket. I've seen recently one with four of them. So it has major advantage. You can leave a message, you can have a WhatsApp, you can watch videos, you can send the video to your friend, you can talk to him even when he's sleeping. There are people getting messages on Facebook even 5 years after they're dead. See, you can do a lot of things with that you couldn't do with your regular phone. So with modern technologies of bioelectrical modulation, you can reach results not in 4 hours, but in a session of 15 minutes. You can be very precise. You can reach a level of correction that you could not reach before. There are a lot of advantages. They are way better than the techniques before, and now it's a tool that you can all have in your center, in your clinic, to deal with aging, while before it was not really the case. So we will see the device there if you want. More than 13,000 patients. We are now more than 10 years. We are entering the 11th year. We are now in 4 continents with what we call the closed loop electromodulation, where you have 2 poles and the current is running through the body and activating the loops that we talked about. I mean, you can see it there live, but I will show you a small video.
Microcurrent activates the biofeedback loops through a closed loop dynamic dual mode technology. The fixed electrode is located on the spine at the level where the corresponding peripheral nerves exit the spinal cord. The active mobile microcurrent pen is applied on the skin following a strict protocol of static points and dynamic lines. Both ends are connected with the device, where the microcurrent is generated according to the protocol. A session starts with the infiltration of the skin with electrolytes to create skin conductivity to the microcurrent. The specially designed REYU aqua is used for this infiltration. Once the skin infiltrated, the session continues by the electrical stimulation with the microcurrent pen. Aloe vera gel is used to improve the diffusion of the current in the depth. Skin improvement, muscular regeneration or hair growth are common indications. Gynecological and andrological indications are frequent indications after the age of 50. Sports injuries or pain management are also part of a wide range of addictions.
But we're gonna see that live very easily. So what we do now is not helping you from the outside and creating a dependency. We're stimulating you and repairing your self-repair mechanisms from the inside. So I would like to pause here for 10-15 minutes so you can see how everything is happening, and then we resume in a few minutes later. Okay?
N-am fost de la început și nu... Cred că este mai apropiată de electrostimulare facială decât de radiofrecvență. Radiofrecvența, din ce știu eu, sunt niște...
Radiofrecvența încălzește, distruge oricum prin acea încălzire, nu reușește să ne susțină pielea cu adevărat, pentru că ne distruge o parte din colagen, da? A spus în prezentare, doamna doctor, Ilan,
Yes.
this lady
Yes.
asked the difference between REYU and RF.
RF. It's a very big difference. RF is radio frequency that is a high frequency meant to heat the molecules of water. See what I mean? We're talking about 30 megahertz. Here, it's a closed loop, quantities of $1 to show in the slides, and others cost $100 billion to shoot drones from the sky. See what I mean? So there are differences in electricity. With radio frequency, you will burn the skin if you are too long on that. Here, you can never burn the skin and stay there a whole day. You understand what I mean? It's different, it's totally different.
Nu la radiofrecvență stimulează nu, doar strânge.
Which is the stimulation of the collagen? How do you explain that?
The fibroblasts are getting active. They wake up. They make the collagen the way a young fibroblast is making collagen. If you burn the skin, you don't make new collagen. You make a scar tissue of inferior collagen. We call it new, but it's a wrong word. It's not. You burn the skin of the grandfather, still a grandfather.
I heard that plasticians are very disappointed with clients who made that because it's very...
RF doesn't rejuvenate. RF is something of the skin.
It's very hard to cut this tissue.
Yes, but it's different collagen. It's not new collagen. It's a scar. You create a scar. See what I mean?
Yes.
We call it new, but we use words that are not allowed to use. You burn a skin, you don't have new skin. You have a scar tissue.
So under that scar tissue, actually the derma is producing a new derma, yeah?
No. Stop with the word new.
Okay.
It's inferior dermis. Damaged dermis, not new.
Actually, like this, when you have a scar,
This is new. You would call it new. Does this look like you were born new? Or
No.
does it look damaged?
it's damaged.
That's it. That's the word you have to use.
It's good that I have it.
Because otherwise, all these women with acid on their face
Normalizarea
Middle East,
dimensiunii
they
porilor.
will look as new. They don't look as new, right?
No, they look all the
Se
same.
sesizează oricum și clienta.
New is
Adică
only
la client îi
when
place
your
din
new
prima,
fiberglass
când se
is
ridică din pat, nu? De pe pat.
You go to an old factory, they make you an old model of shoes. They don't make you the new collection. The new collection is a new factory. Not a factory
Dar asta
that
ce are
is
pe nou
stimulated to
silicon?
produce more of
Aparatul.
all
Da, da, da.
and
Care
not
are
the
nevoie,
damage.
deci trebuie să mă
And
gândesc
that's
că
why we use wrong
face o
terminology.
conexiune între
The industry
chestia
has
aia și
pumped
nu,
in our
deci eu
head
electricitate,
wrong
dar
Da,
terminology.
pentru că are
People don't
un
even
vârf, vezi?
understand what
E o
these
zonă
machines are doing.
în care are metal.
da, 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 și asta zic, asta
Și
noi,
inclusiv,
I'm 65.
da,
și asta nu lopește.
I'm grandfather of the 5 times.
Dar bun, dar
And I traveled a lot yesterday because yesterday
materialul respectiv și ăla îl conduce. Și ăla e conductor.
Da, da, da. Are o zonă cu metal și acolo. Vârf, da?
I'm grandfather of 5. What do you have? What do you have? 5 what?
Maybe you.
4 boys and 1 girl. What do you have? 4 girls and 1 boy?
4 boys and 1 girl.
You also?
So you can make a football
We
team.
make a mix, yes.
Bine, știi care au fața căzută?
It's the fascia, so the sagging.
The sagging is a lot of things. First of all, the sagging is a double, we will see that. There is a muscle that pulls you down.
Eu nu înțeleg nimic.
Este un mușchi care se trage în jos, deci poate fi mai multe cauze.
I have sagging.
Zigomatic, zigomatic,
GLP-1.
zigomatic.
It's just this theory or fact is explaining actually the old practices of acupuncture, prana, and electricity. What
We
is
work
the
specifically on areas. See what I mean? Acupuncture and prana is not going to lift your face.
I know that, but is it the same principle of electricity
We are
or
electric.
energy?
We are electric. See, we are electric. And then with REYU, we can connect to specific roots. See what I mean?
This
We can
was
make
a
you
very
stop
nice
the urinary
approach
incontinence.
of,
Prana cannot do that.
Okay.
Acupuncture not. Stop the urinary.
It's actually interesting because I put my mother to
Doamna, vă ridicați cu 20 de ani mai tânăruță.
some sessions with acupuncture exactly for this urinary problem.
Da, bine.
It would be interesting to see how it connects this sometime.
I mean, we have famous guys, presidents of the Society of Gynecology.
Așa, ne puteți spune cum v-ați simțit în timpul tratamentului?
Din punctul meu de vedere a fost un tratament relaxant. Nu am simțit disconfort, nu s-a simțit, în afară de spasmele astea musculare, mișcările astea de mușchi care sunt finuțe și nu deranjează, nu contractează mușchii, nu sunt... nu e ceva notabil, ca să zic așa. În rest a fost foarte relaxant și super bine m-am simțit. Da, dar mi-am pus ochelarii ca să mă văd. Wow, super! Super, super, super! În primul rând, așa cum ați spus, porii la mine, fiind pielea mai întinsă și apoi că vin după o slăbire de câteva zeci de kilograme, porii rămân măriți așa și acum în primul rând porii am văzut diminuați. Da.
Ok, o să...
Hair, face, neuropathy, dysfunctional urine, sexual troubles, and the troubles of the pelvis, sports injuries. We'll see a lot of them, and we'll go through a few principles more in detail, because otherwise it will be quite a lot. So, we started with surgery, then we went to minimal invasive with injectables, then we went to natural techniques, but still dependent on the outside. And now we are in the era of self-healing, which is the fourth generation. Now, everybody who knows what selective modulation is for lasers, for instance, the black hairs, you can touch them when the skin is white for hair removal, everybody knows that, yes? Okay, but you have also selectivity for red blood cells and for pigmentation. Here you have an electrical selectivity. Why? Because all the elements that are damaged have a higher resistance. And when they have a higher resistance, they catch the energy much more than the elements that don't have a high resistance. Take, for instance, acne scars. Acne scars have a thick skin next to a very thin skin, the scar tissue. What do we do right now? We use elements that deal with the thick skin, but who do not touch the thin skin. For instance, all the ablative lasers, they touch water, and the water is the thick skin. We don't need to touch the thick skin. The thick skin is healthy skin. We need to touch the scars, but they have very few water molecules, okay? So the same for the needling. We activate the fibroblasts of the thick skin and not so much of the thin skin, so we're doing reverse selectivity. If you go to electrical selectivity, the thin skin of the scars will react much more than the thick skin, which is normal because the thick skin has a resistance that is very low. Everybody understands that principle? Yes? Okay, good. So here we go, and we see like the lights must go off, otherwise we don't see anything. Hello? I don't know. We have more light. Do you see the picture here? Yes? Maybe the light, can that be, sir, that you're filming?
Yes, I
The light on top. you don't see. Yes. See what I mean? Okay, that's better. Good. So you see a dark skin, prototype 5, she's Indian. Now what do we see here? You cannot use an ablative laser. She will get post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Okay? So that is not so very good. So, and by the way, you will not touch the scars. Electromodulation treats the scars, leaves the skin intact. You don't have post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation because on the contrary, you're working anti-inflammatory. Okay? So, and you see that the whole region is corrected because also the skin under the eyes and the wrinkles are taken care of. And that is exactly what bioelectricity does. It treats it a region. That's why you're so harmonious. You don't treat an element, you treat a totality. If you're going to rejuvenate, for instance, just this room and you take the door, and the door will be new, but then the windows will not be new, etc. You need to take the region and keep the harmony between the different elements of the region. So, everything that we use, the peelings, ablative lasers, infrared lasers, ablative and non-ablative, radio frequency and needling, plasma, they are all heating. They're heating the collagen and they create a scar tissue. Never say new collagen because it's not. It's a scar tissue with the hope that the scar tissue will function as well as the original tissue and will definitely never be a young skin. So we're using wrong terminologies. If you want a young skin, you have to have a young fibroblast who produces young collagen and young hyaluronic acid. If you still have an old fibroblast and you stimulate it with doping, you will get everything that an old fibroblast can do, but not what a young fibroblast can do. So that's different. A young fibroblast you don't have to stimulate, just have to make them younger. And what does a cell need to become younger? Oxygen, nerves, lymphatics, cell cohesion, okay? All the elements of drainage. You see here how fibroblasts react when you aggress them. When you aggress them, what they do is they become pregnant with collagen sticks, long bars, and you know, everybody knows the baby who's hitting through the belly of the mother and we see his hand or his fingers. Well, here we see the bars of collagen, so the round cell becomes a cell with spikes, and these spikes are the collagen molecules inside the fibroblast. Okay? So, we don't need activators specifically. Why? Because we can activate it by ourselves, not to be dependent on external activators. That's why I don't like that so much. And look at the fibroblasts. They're small, 15 to 20 microns. That's not really much. So all our current skills and technology that we have will, in the coming 5 years, be much less, and some of them will disappear completely. So, when I started with my clinic, everything went well. We did like 400 Botox patients a day. People were coming from the morning till the evening, like to be injected. We were the only ones who were doing that. They were traveling from far, 300-400 kilometers with buses, and everything grew exponentially very much. And at a certain point, we had 40 operation rooms, 45 members of personnel. It was an industry. Just to tell you, we had a hostess who guided you through all the bathrooms and the toilets and the waiting rooms that there were on each floor. There were waiting rooms. So, but in 2012, we saw the faces change. All of a sudden, people looked weird. They looked totally different than before. We didn't know how it came. We called our colleagues in Hollywood and they said we stopped injecting because we don't recognize the actors. And this is what came along. If you remember these patients, okay, how they looked like, Meg Ryan, okay, you cannot use her face anymore in a movie. Neither here nor this one, although he played another movie afterwards. He had to play the villain, not the nice guy. But he had a role. This one, he still survived, because for him it was boxing and a lot of blood on the face, but to be the nice romantic guy, it wouldn't work. Okay? So, and then we understood a few things. We started to understand that it's not the skin, it's the facial shape. Aging is the facial shape. Donatella Versace has a smoother skin than the baby, but she still looks much older because of the facial shape. We also understood that although collagen and hyaluronic acid were first approved for the nasolabial fold, imagine that's how intelligent doctors were, still are. The nasolabial fold is lacking collagen and hyaluronic acid and volume. So FDA approved it for the nasolabial fold. Now we know that the nasolabial fold is a muscular problem and not a lack of collagen problem. Okay? Just to show you how wrong we are in all our ideas. Now, here is the facial shape that changes while the skin is okay and you see them aging. What means? I mean that everything inside is aging. And when you come to a doctor with a wrinkle, understand that inside your face there is already an aging process that is 15 years going on. You have to take care of that, otherwise you will see every month or every 6 months something appear. It will not take very long before people understand that, because we are communicating a lot. And a lot of doctors start to understand that. Paris is already nearly for a big part converted into bioelectrical medicine because the patient starts to understand that. And imagine who is coming to these centers. Royalties are coming from different kingdoms. They are doing electromodulation because they cannot afford to have a face that is bloated, or royalties are coming. Actors that are known are coming. Politicians are coming because they cannot get out with a face like all the rest, with bigger lips, with this, with that. So these are the clients. Here you see, what would you do for somebody like that? Jessica Parker. Everybody would do some Botox. She will keep her upper lines because you cannot deal with it, otherwise the eyebrows will drop, okay? We will inject probably in the cheekbones and the mid-face. The round eyes she will keep below, because otherwise we need to do a cantopexy. You see her eyes when she was young, they are straight below and round above, okay? This is how young eyes look, and they become round when you're older. And the eyebrows go higher up because you have a residual contraction of your frontalis muscle, okay? And you see the jawline is sagging and everybody thinks it's gravity. Who thinks it's gravity? Lift your hand up, all of you. All of you would think that the face goes down because of gravity. Really? It's not gravity, you'll see that very soon. So all are misconceptions. Nobody thinks in this industry. Okay, so what we did is, let me see. Yes, here you see mother and daughter, how the face changes. So we wanted to know what's going on. It was 2012, approaching 2013, and my daughter was about to marry the son of a famous radiologist. They had CT scans in their clinic for radiologists, and I asked him to check out what's going on inside. And called me up and he says, I don't understand where this fat pad story of you is coming. It's the muscle who goes away, and because the muscle doesn't pull on the bone is leaving you. And this is the main reason of the change of the shape of the face and the loss of volume. Now this is a dynamic thing. You cannot go and replace that with injections of hyaluronic acid, not even with injections of fat. It's the muscles who are responsible, and I call them the Cinderella of beauty. You all know the story of Cinderella. She was doing all the work, and the two sisters went away with the credit. The muscles are doing all the work, and the skin is going away with all the credit. So the muscles are responsible for the volume, the lifting, and the relaxation after each contraction. This is a facial paralysis because of a nervous problem, which is called the Bell's palsy. And what do we see? We see that the muscles are sagging. The skin is the same age. So the skin is totally not responsible for holding up your face. The muscles are holding it up, not the skin. You see also the fat pads, they're exactly the same left and right. But the muscles are different, and they determine the whole story. And how do the muscles work? The brain controls them. To a very, very sophisticated system, it reaches its cables till deep in the muscle. Deep in the muscle. That's why we can sometimes inject the surface of the muscle and say that we did a partial Botox where you can still move. It's not true. Watch out for terminology. You have to put your hand on the Bible and talk the truth. You paralyzed a part of the muscle. You didn't keep the muscle alive, you killed half of it. Okay? So, this is the right terminology. And you will pay for that. Half the price, but still. Okay? So, and then he gets information back. And the brain and the muscle, they work day and night. You go to sleep in the evening, you see already your eyes closing because the levator palpebrae is already tired. And then you go and sleep, all your muscular tone is going down, 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 down. You sleep profoundly, you're nearly dead, but still you have muscular tone. Then you wake up slowly in the morning, your muscular tone goes up. It goes up and up, you go to the shower, you take your coffee. By the time you're back in the office for the meeting board, your muscles are in full contraction, full tone. On top of that, you have all your expression lines coming up, coming down. See, you can have expression lines in the morning till the evening. So the muscular tone and the expression lines are totally different things. But because there is an activity from the brain on the muscle, you keep your muscular volume. Till you lose this connection, and then you are in sarcopenia, and you start losing that volume. So, but if you disconnect the muscle from the nerve, the muscle will atrophy. It will disappear. Just like your masseter muscle. Okay, so here we are, and it is because we lose these connections of the muscle. We lose the tone, we lose the volume, the muscle and the bone, because you don't pull on the bone anymore, and we use the relaxation after each contraction. And why is that? We lose speed. We need 120 meters per second. We lose synchronization between afferent and efferent nerves, the nerves that bring the signal to the muscle and from the muscle back to the brain. And because the synchronization and the speed is going down, we lose our muscular coherence, which means with time we have two things happening. First of all, part of muscles who lose their tone and they are sagging, and part of the muscles who regain contraction that you cannot relax, just like our expression minds, and they pull the face down. The platysma pulls you down, the depressor angulus oris pulls you down, the frontalis pulls you up. These are residual contractions that you cannot control anymore. We call it gravity. It's nothing about gravity. There are some muscles that lose tone and some muscles who gain an over-contraction that you cannot relax. And that's why a lifting needs to take care of both. It needs to take care in a dynamic way the upward movement, and it needs to take in a dynamic way also the over-contraction of these two muscles. So that's why liftings are not a very spectacularly nice treatment, certainly not 5 years later. So here we are. The difference with an electromyostimulation is from the outside with two patches, you start to create contractions by electrical impulses. That doesn't do anything on the long term, and after 15 minutes you disconnect it, so you continue to lose your muscle, while the brain works day and night. So I'll show you here myself. This is electrical stimulation of the muscle, not the nerve, the muscle. We don't want that. We want this, and this is something different. Here we activate the nerve, and when you activate the nerve, you have restored the connection, and you will build up a muscle over time. And we will see here what's happening. We built over time this small muscle which called the levator. I used to do a lot of blepharoplasties till I understood that it's not the skin. It's the muscle. And it pulls your skin backwards, and you get exactly the same eye you had when you were younger with the same amount of skin. And I did thousands of blepharoplasties. Thousands. I can even do them blindfolded, I think. So, we discovered that accidentally. We had a patient with diffusion of Botox to the upper muscle, this small muscle here, and we didn't know what to do with it, and it was just at the time when we were working at this technology. So we tried electromodulation and we lifted it back. If you have sometimes problems with Botox with diffuse, you can recuperate it through that. And then we said, okay, it's nicely up, why don't we take the other eye and deal with that? And that's where we stopped doing blepharoplasties. We stopped also doing Botox on the forehead because it fell down, and now we have muscular tone and relaxation just like young people. Young people, they are relaxed and they have the tone. So if we're talking about rejuvenation, we should have that, both. But we don't have it. That's why I call it the muscle paradox. We have to choose between the overcontraction and the Botox and the relaxation, so we cannot do everything on the forehead. And we still call it rejuvenation, which is a wrong terminology. Aesthetic medicine is full with wrong terms. Full. We say new when it's old. We say rejuvenation when we just freeze things. I mean, it's terrible. This is the biggest problem that we have with Botox. One of the biggest problems that we cannot tackle the corner of the eyes. Now, if you look at my forehead, I'm 65. It's smooth, but I can lift my eyebrows. See, I can lift them, I can move them. And when I don't do that, they relax. So, and then muscular volume. This will be the future. When people understand that, they will stop doing Botox. So that's clear, okay? I told you everything you're doing now will disappear within a very short time. So, this is a full face. You understand now why people doubt. Take this lady on the left, okay? Imagine she's now 68, she says, oh, I've got money, I inherited some money, I have some time, this and that. Don't publish these photos, okay? They're not allowed to be put on social media, okay? For those who are taking pictures, not on social media, okay? So, you see that? She doesn't know what to do. She will come to different doctors. One will tell her, let's make a phenol peel. The other one will tell her, let's make a CO2 resurfacing. Another one will say, you know what, let's take a fractional erbium, it's softer. We'll do 5 of these pieces. Then they will try to inject in her mid-phase hyaluronic acid. And then they will try to put some Botox on the forehead and the tear troughs, etc. 4 sessions. She got something that is even. She starts to look the way she looked many years ago. This one is even more spectacular. I dare the first plastic surgeon that is sitting here to tell me that he can do that with a scalpel. No way. Look at the lip, upper lip. Look at the marionette lines. Cannot deal with that. This is a muscle, the risorius, which you relax. Look at the nasolabial fold. Look at the mid-face. Look at the jawline. Look at the eyes. Look at the orbicularis below, who is tightened. You would say it's a cantopexy. It's not a cantopexy. For those who don't know what a cantopexy is, take the lower eyelid and to stitch it to the bone. Okay? Look at the upper eyelid. Again, round on the top. Look at the eyebrows. They're down. Look at the eyelid inside. You cannot reach that with surgery. Forget about it. And there is no scar whatsoever. For those who doubt, they can come and see on my computer later on the pictures in detail. Here we are. The same situation of the muscle. We build muscle, we relax muscle, we gain muscular tone. Now all these fillers, I hope by now everybody is convinced that your hyaluronic acid will never go away. It will continue to swell, it will continue to attract water, to create inflammation, to migrate from left to right and cause you problems. And if you want to dissolve it, it's not possible because it creates even more trouble. That is why I'm very relaxed, why bio-electro modulation will gain traction very fast in the coming 2-3 years because it's the only solution for a puffy, bloated face. You get a better lymph drainage, you get a better vascularization, you work anti-inflammatory, you build back your muscle, and you get a better harmony between the hyaluronic acid volume and the muscular volume. It's just a matter of sitting down, communicating, till everybody understands that. Tom Cruise. Some people listen and see posts on Instagram or Facebook, don't go to fake injectors. Yes, you hear that? Or not? You don't have it in Romania? Doctors are very mad about fake injectors. Yes? You do have it? Yes? I believe. Everywhere in the world it's like that. And they make you believe that all the side effects of hyaluronic acid is because the doctor doesn't know how to inject. And because the product is not okay. Now I can guarantee you that Tom Cruise went to the best doctor and used the best product and still has these problems which are not related to the doctor but to the technology itself. Okay? This is the way he looked in 2021. And he had to play this maverick and put the helmet of the F-16 on his head, but it doesn't fit anymore. So he needed to get rid of this. And it took him a lot of effort and a lot of risks to regain that shape. And you will see that he looks older now. If you look at his pictures, then he looks older now. Now, for those who want to understand how all this aging starts, you go to one of his movies which is called Jack Reacher. Somebody saw the movie on Netflix, Jack Reacher? Okay. Look at the 1 and look at the 2. And look how the face aged. And he should have done bioelectromodulation, but he chose for hyaluronic acid, and he ruined his face for the next movie. Because it comes all of a sudden. It's not something that comes gradually. Okay? Look at Jack Reacher 1, Jack Reacher 2. Good. Madonna didn't dare to do that because if she has an autoimmune disease and she cannot move her articulations anymore, then the dancer doesn't have a job. So, look at the muscles of the upper eyelids, and everybody talks about lifting of the eyebrow with Botox. That is all okay if you have an active frontalis. If you don't have an active frontalis, forget about it. But you can activate your frontalis muscle and get your eyebrows lifted. Malar bags, we talked about it. No plasma pen, no heating of the skin, don't touch the skin. It's not a problem of the skin. So why bother the skin? It's a problem of the platysma. It's a problem of the muscles in the knee. It's a problem of the ligaments. It's a problem of lymphatic drainage. It's a problem of activation with oxygen in the skin that revives itself. But it's definitely not burning the skin. Here, the contraction here of the crow's feet, very easy. With time, it takes a bit tough time, but it's very easy. Let's look at the mid-face with all the muscles of the mid-face. And here we have a testimonial. I will just roll it here.
So, I just had a session, and I must say it's a very easy, manageable, it's kind of pleasant. It's not like there's no pain involved whatsoever. So basically you feel how the current goes through your muscles, and you feel the twitch, and you feel how all the nerves get kind of stimulated. So at the beginning it's like kind of ooh, but then it becomes really interesting, and then you kind of relax into it, and it's kind of nice. So in terms of pain, it's zero. It's very, very easy, very manageable. And then after one session, I can tell, especially I feel it like in my jawline, I can see more definition. Also, these lines here, I'm like, where are they? They're gone. So I feel like there has been in only one session, I feel like there's been like a rejuvenation in my skin, in the tightness of the skin. I don't see so many expression lines. So, yeah, I'm quite impressive, truly.
Can we give the microphone now to the lady who just had it?
Îmi și mișcă e foarte ușor și devin relaxante apoi. Ba chiar e ca un fel de gimnastică facială fără să faci nimic, fără să te implici în masaj sau în... Pur și simplu simți mușchii cum se contractă, dar nu o contracție din aceea dureroasă. E o senzație plăcută.
Durere n-am simțit deloc.
Nu, deloc. Durere nu, deloc.
Căldură?
Nici măcar, nu. Nici măcar căldură. Au fost în jurul ochilor, am văzut niște flash-uri de lumină. Bănuiesc că din cauza conductibilității energiei. Și contractura asta musculară, care la început a fost mai micuță și apoi din ce în ce mai mare, ceea ce mie una mi-a spus că se dezvoltă mușchiul ăla acolo, ceva se întâmplă cu el. Per total a fost o experiență relaxantă.
Acum, după tratament, simțiți ceva? Ca și
Acum simt așa, exact, ca o căldură ușoară, dar...
Usturime?
Nu. Nu usturime, nu... Nimic neplăcut. Nu furnicături, nu. Simt într-adevăr un gen de lifting, așa, parcă cumva pielea mi s-ar trage, dar probabil o fi, nu știu, de la procedură sau de la gel, sau ce s-a întâmplat acolo.
Mai repetați?
Da, am și vorbit cu doamna Mara, vreau să continui să fac și celelalte sesiuni din protocol. Pentru că după ce eu am făcut, ca să fiu mai precisă puțin, eu am făcut injecții de slăbit, deci am un gen de Ozempic face, la mine un jar face, așa, și am slăbit foarte mult, ele a rămas cu niște pori mai mari, iar acum când m-am privit în oglindă, prima mea senzație a fost că porii s-au micșorat. Deci asta a fost prima impresie instant pe care am văzut-o în oglindă. Apoi, ceea ce mă nemulțumește pe mine foarte tare este buza superioară, unde și acolo am văzut că din multitudinea de liniuțe pe care le aveam, câteva s-au dus.
Asta e important. Da. Comparativ cu alte proceduri, ce puteți să ne spuneți?
Comparativ cu, da, am făcut laser, și nu se compară, adică procedura la laser este și dureroasă atunci pe moment, este și cu o perioadă lungă de recuperare. Acum a fost o procedură plăcută, relaxantă și nu am avut niciun fel de disconfort.
Pe partea de dinți, plombe, ceva lucrări, ați simțit o senzație?
Am avut când doamna Mara a lucrat pe zona de mandibulă, am avut ușoare un gust metalic în gură, dar înrăzit altceva, nici încălzit, nici nimic altceva. Și o ușoară amețeală, dar foarte ușoară, ca atunci când te dai ușor într-un balansor, spunea doamna, când se apropia de zona orei.
Și cum v-ați ridicat?
Și m-am ridicat, a fost cam
fără amețeală.
Fără amețeală. Deci, o experiență plăcută, cred.
Cam cât a durat procedura?
Cam o oră. Cam o oră.
Good.
Thank you.
Foarte bine. Mulțumesc. Fascia that is just below the hypodermis, till the bone, you don't do anything. And that's where all the aging is. So that's one thing to understand, that the main aging, you don't deal with that in your center. Once you start to enter through the skin and you inject hyaluronic acid or you inject Botox, even threading doesn't really alter your face, okay? So from that moment on, you go deep inside. So for deep inside, we don't have anything. Anything. Okay? And just the skin is not very interesting. Definitely not if you don't treat the fascia. So very, very deep understanding of what's happening with aging. So look at the shape of the face. There's no way you can reach that with nothing. Not with surgery, not with injectables, definitely not with all the treatments that you do in your salon on the face. Now, you do understand that if a patient that is informed has to choose between this and going to a regular beautician, the choice is very quickly made. So you do understand how your business will stop in a very short time. Because this is what they want. This is also what they want. Look at the lips, look at the mallet bags, you look at the eyes, okay? Look at the jawline. So you cannot reach that with anything else. You need sessions, you need more than one session. The problem is people don't have patience to do their first 4 or 5 sessions. But if they do, they reach that. This is a doctor that is treating another doctor. This lady is herself a doctor, 58 years old, from a doctor in Bucharest who sent us these pictures. And you see how you have dramatic changes. With all my surgery and all my team, I cannot reach that, and I wonder if there is here some plastic surgeon that can tell me that he can reach that. No way. Nasolabial folds, the first indication for injections of collagen and hyaluronic acid. Solve without. Why? Because we go inside the mouth and we work on the zygomatic. You know, the zygomatic is an interesting muscle. On the nasolabial fold, it's hypercontracted. On the sides, it loses its tone. So, like most muscles, they have like a double signal from the brain. And you cannot solve this double signal unless you reconnect it, because the brain knows how to give contradictory signals to the same muscle. We cannot. We need to make choices. Lips. This is the future of lips. Why? Young, educated women, they don't want these injections anymore. Nowhere in the world. Big lips have become synonymous of cashiers in supermarkets. So it's not done anymore. In Paris, you cannot walk anymore with big lips. People know exactly that you work as a cashier in a supermarket. So if you are a lawyer or I don't know what, and you have a little bit more status and you're 25, this is what you do. You work on the muscle, you work on the filter that goes up, you work on the vermilion because you arrange the microcirculation, got a better definition of your lips, still look young, still look 100% natural. And firms will not accept you anymore with big lips. That is over. And if it started in Paris and if it started in Florida, be sure it will come here very, very soon. The neck. Everybody's talking about the neck as a difficult area. Who knows the neck as a difficult area? Everybody. Why is it a difficult area? For one reason. We don't deal with the real problem, which are the deep muscles underneath. Between the hyoid bone, mandibular arch, the styloid bone, and the tongue. Now, I'm asking you to do one thing. Stick your tongue out and feel what's happening here. Do that. You understand that you're building up the muscles here, and this is where you have to deal with the double chin? With nothing else? It's not the fat necessarily. It's all these muscles inside to the tongue, and we go inside the tongue and we stimulate and activate these muscles. Together with the drainage of the fluid, you get a situation like that. Okay? So, the deeper muscles, everybody's concentrated on this platysma, injecting Botox in the platysma, no sense. Look how faces change, 10 sessions in 2 years. Time is very important for rejuvenation. Okay? You can take the lady that we just did, make 5 sessions today, will not make it go faster. Biology needs time. Pregnancy is 9 months. You sleep with your husband 10 times a day, it will not get short. It will still stay 9 months. Okay? So, biology has timing. Look how the faces change. How the facial shape changes. People start to tell you, I recognize myself the way I was 10, 15, 20 years ago. You see? So, the younger you are, the quicker will be your results, which is totally normal. All the ligaments, they hold up your face. We don't do anything for them. Even when we inject, we don't do anything to rejuvenate them. The fascia, the muscles, all the structure in the depth, we don't deal with it. We even forget that we have a ligament behind the ear which pulls the skin and rearranges the jawline. Nobody talks about that. Why? Because we can't do anything about it. But we can now. So a young face is definitely not only skin. It's fascia, ligaments, fat mass, lymph, muscles, bone. The whole 9 yards. Lymphatics, activated lymphatics, and we know now that's electric, will give you a lymph drainage. These are pictures from India, where people like to drink and to eat heavily. They are not Ayurvedic, and they get a lot of toxins in the face. You drain this face, and people tell you, oh, you lost weight. You didn't. It's the toxins that went away. And there are a lot of toxins in the face. We'll talk about that very, very soon. Same for the lymph drainage and the activation of the skin and the dimples in cellulite. Takes a little bit of time, about an hour to do a leg, but it stays. This is 1 year later, despite the fact that she gained 1.5 kilos. There's no way you can do that with something else. We went over the facial shape, which is extremely important for aging, and we'll go now to skincare. A lot of misconceptions about skincare. I don't know if with the introduction Mara told you, but I'm the founder of the Association of Cosmetic Sciences from '87, and I have a university degree of cosmetology, and I've been studying that very, very in depth. And the active ingredients in our cosmetics are mainly water soluble. Vitamin C, L+ ascorbic acid is water soluble. Niacinamide is water soluble. And we put it in a cream which is fat. So two things happen. First, we must change it because we need to make this molecule look different. So we take palmitate or we take another derivative, and then we try to mix it. The biodisponibility goes down the drain. There's hardly any activity, okay? And you're stuck there with a lot of toxins of the cosmetics. So we want to change that. We accumulate more than 2 kilograms of toxins from skincare products every year. And we get a heavy face full of toxins, etc. Good. The concentrations in water are much higher. They act much better. You have to dissolve them, infiltrate them with our aqua device. You do that once a month for your patients with skin problems, and for the rest, they don't touch cosmetics. Here you have classical ingredients of an aging cream, and most of them are water soluble. So they don't belong in a cream. And watch out for sunscreens, because they have some toxicity. So, these are the non-active ingredients, which means the rubbish that you get in your cosmetics that you don't need and who are harming you. You see, a lot of them. We don't like them. So, out of it, we're taking only the active ingredients in water. Let's say phenoxyethanol is toxic. Okay? Wait a second. Here did I miss that? No, okay, yes. This is the next slide. So, we need to change all formulations so they will be less toxic. And combine with bioelectrical treatment, because bioelectricity regenerates your skin without the need of any cosmetics. Now, if you look at cosmetics, you think, I'm safe. Look at CeraVe. Dr. Marisa Garshik, so it's by a doctor, recommended by doctors, etc. It contains toxic ingredients. Has been proven. L'Oreal has been taken by the court to remove that. They don't want to remove that. They pay a fine of 5,000 euros a day, and it continues to be on the shelves. This has been taken in an airport. And you can still buy everything, and you can still have toxicities. Some perfumes are so toxic that they kill your fertility. You cannot have children. Just for you to know. So we are banning toxins because we don't need chemicals on our skin. We need bioelectricity. So the solution, what is that? Direct infusion of pure ingredients once a month. If you need that, use electromodulation and 1 daily serum with the least amount of preservatives that we can, because it will last for 3 months and then you throw it away. It will be very cheap. It has anti-inflammatory ingredients, probiotics, anti-pollution, because pollution is a big killer of your skin, and it creates a film between your makeup and your skin so you can remove your makeup easily without damaging your skin. And something like that will be in small airless tubes that you can throw away after 3 months when it's finished, so you don't need all these preservatives, okay? And it will be very, very cheap. Technically, we think of offering it with every treatment of REYU by your therapist, like you don't have to pay it. Because most of the price of cosmetics is mainly marketing and packaging and all these kind of things. Dilated pores, we talked about it, that you have more resistance in the pores, you can deal with them very easily. Then pigmentation around the eyes from our lady that asked, like 20 minutes ago. Now look what's going on. First of all, you see that biomodulation doesn't look at your problem. It looks at an area that it's going to normalize. So she wanted to get rid of the pigmentation around the eyes, but look, all the warts are gone, the xanthelasma is less, the skin is going inside because the muscle had also a little bit of bioelectricity. We didn't target the muscle, okay? You see the wrinkles are better, it's an area that you improve. And that's why it's so nice, because you create and you keep the harmony of all these structures, and you don't have structures that are treated and structures that are not treated. If you're going to treat that with acid with a laser, all the rest will stay. So you want some harmony in the rejuvenation. Pigmentation problems that are deep pigmentation. This is the husband of my yoga teacher in India. We have a clinic there. He came for these deep pigmentations that they could not solve. We did 5 treatments with a week interval because I didn't have much time when I was in India. He had 0 effect after 2 months. He had nearly 0 effect, but after 1 year, it disappeared. And it's now 6-7 years, still disappeared. So don't look at immediate effects. Understand what's happening in the body and how the body creates homeostasis, and it takes time for the body to get the results, but they are still there after many years. We see that for hair growth. We treat the patient, 18 months later he comes back and he has more hair than his last session. The dermis and regeneration of the dermis takes also a long time, but you can get that. Pigmented armpits in India, it's a very important thing. Here you see how we deal with that, the armpits and the discoloration of the armpits, okay? A second. Melasma, which is an inflammatory effect. We talked about it. Look how red she is before, how less red she is after, and this will continue to improve. Rosacea. Okay. Now, people know something about lasers. You know, the smaller your vessel, the shorter your pulse time. Is that clear for everybody? Yes or not? No laser specialists here. So if you have small vessels, your pulse time must be smaller. You can, for big vessels, you can take an NDIAC laser 1064 on 20 milliseconds, but if you go to the very small vessels, you have to go to a pulse time with 0.5 milliseconds and a wavelength of 695, okay? So here, what happens here at a certain point, your vessels are too small to deal with the laser. So you have to go in the rebalancing between the dermis and the vessels, so the dermis grows better and compresses the vessels. And so you see how electrobiomodulation will improve your skin beyond what lasers can do. So you will throw all your lasers out. Scars. We will not make a pause here, we'll continue. Right, Maya? And you see that 1 on 20 comes in America and the rest don't. So mind you, you're losing territory. Second is, they don't want this. They've seen it, they don't want it. And you cannot avoid it, because what will you do in the depth of the face? Lifting or fillers? That's all you have. Second problem that we have impossible situations that now we can reach very easily. And I'm talking about acne scars, depigmentation, malar bags, etc., that we cannot solve, and now we can solve them easily. Third of all, we get a wellness concept of feeling good, a good experience. Now, our lady there that got the REYU, did you have like a kind of a mental relaxation? Yes, you feel great.
Yes.
And this is in a hotel. Imagine if you are at a beautician's or doctor's place.
One-to-one.
With one-to-one, dim of the light, essential oils, nice music, you sleep. And you get like an intense mental relaxation. That's why we have psychiatrists that are buying this device for anxiety, for depression, for insomnia, for mental clarity. They can heal mental problems with that. Okay? And people will come back to you and come back to you, and they'll get addicted to this mental relaxation that no other treatment can offer. And then fourth, if you calculate everything you will spend over a lifetime, you're much cheaper with bioelectrical stimulation. You've got 3-4 euros of consumables, and if the doctor or the beautician doesn't pay much, of course the patient will also pay less. These are the calculations, so we got sustainable results. They stay over time, 100% clinical improvement, no side effects, no pain, no downtime. On the contrary, the first 4 days you look amazing, and then it fades away. And then you will get your effect on the long run. Why I don't like REYU? The reason why I don't like REYU is because people expect a result immediately, and they will start seeing a result after 4 months, and they are not patient enough. But they pay a high price for being impatient. Then, more sessions needs to be done in the beginning, and people don't want to spend it in the beginning for more sessions, because elsewhere they get with the first session the result that they want, but they will have to repeat it lifelong. It's a little bit like hair removal for people who have a laser for hair removal. In the beginning you have to spend a little bit, but then it becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Same thing here. Why I do love REYU? Essentially because you get a real rejuvenation. You start recognizing yourself with the pictures that you had before. Secondly, because from the 4th month on you have a long-lasting results, and it is the best long-term investment that you can ever have, with each time looking 4 days fantastic and accumulating it like compound interest for when you're 65. So it goes like this. You have a shoot, you look great, while other techniques will give you bruising and swelling. Here you can dance the same day, and gradually you evolve. And people who don't look at their pictures before and after, they will think they go down to 0, but it's not. They climb, and they climb more and more and more and more, and after 6 months they look amazing. This is a book that if you want you can have a PDF, okay, about the skin. And hair loss we will leave after our break, right? Well, shortly. We're going to talk a little bit about hair restoration. Okay, hair restoration is an important topic for 2 reasons. One reason is there is a lot of demand for hair, a lot of demand. People want to have hair treatments very much. But on the other hand, it's very tricky because nobody makes a right diagnosis for hair. And so they start treating wrong hair indications in a wrong way. And they don't get the results. And because they don't get the results, hair restoration has a very bad name, very bad reputation. If you tell people I'm doing hair, they start laughing because they don't believe you. Okay? And they are right. Because clinics accept everybody for PRP, for this, for that, and they don't check anything. So, we have to make a difference between 2 problems. The problem in the cycle, which means we have a short anagen phase or a long anagen phase. We go rapidly to the catagen and telogen phase. You see all these kind of situations before we understand what is really going on. What affects anagen phase is medication, toxicity, all these kind of things. There are anagen effluvium, stress and shocks. There are telogen effluvium. We have to understand that. Now, the biggest category of hair loss is the androgenetic alopecia, which for men is 85% and for women 50%. So it's very important to make the difference between the different types of alopecia, and only then you can start correcting it. So because it's very complicated, we developed a system for diagnosis with a scope. I think the scope is a little bit there. If you can bring it to me now, it would be great. Why did we develop that scope? Essentially because if you go with a regular microscope, you don't know if it's exactly the same place where you took the picture last time. You know, these little scopes that you have, you never know if it's the same place. You can plug it here. And if you take a picture, a general picture, you don't have enough detail. So we developed a scope which takes 6 centimeters in diameter, so you can really go and take one zone for the man, another zone for women, because they have it here, the temporal one left, temporal one right, and if you want to take a general overview, you can take it with your phone, okay? And you can import it in the system. So you can compare, because the problem is people, it takes them 6 months before they see growth, and they lose their patient. Then you can import that and start comparing the pictures side by side so that you can show people how it evolves, okay? That's very important, otherwise you have a lack of patient compliance. They don't know what's going on and they stop trusting you. Then we have the examination, which is 3 phases. The first one is questionnaire. We question if there is hereditary problems, if there is stress problems, if there is alimentary problems, if there are hormonal problems, if they're taking medication that kill hair follicle, toxical ones, if they have diseases that are related to hair loss, like irritable bowel syndrome, thyroid, etc. Okay? All these questions we ask them. If they took medications for their hair, like finasteride, if they stopped the medication, because we know finasteride is 9 months before the effect is out. And all this is collected, all this information is collected, and at each step you can click for help and information where you can read about this problem extensively in a pop-up window that pops up. So even if you don't understand much or you're starting with hair, the pop-up window will show you what to understand from this parameter. Imagine they tell you I had a problem with the thyroid, you click on the pop-up window, it explains you what it is, and then you understand and you can ask the question a little bit better if you don't. After a while, you will know everything and you will know how to pose your questionnaire. Okay? Second part of the examination is a scalp examination, where you can see the scalp and you can touch the scalp and move the scalp and pull on the hairs and look at the inflammation, etc. And from there on, you gain another set of information. And each time, it explains you also what it means, okay? Then you have the third level. The third level is your blood tests. Examination of the blood and the blood test. Now, what is important in the blood test? To understand the cutoff limits for hair, because they are different from just normal and sick. For instance, ferritin could be totally normal at 40, 50, but if you don't go up to 70, you are deficient for hair. So it's really important to understand what is the level that you need that can be way in the normal, but if you go below, it will not be efficient for hair. So a ferritin of 60 is totally normal, but for hair it's too low. You need to give additional ones. So you get all these blood tests. Once you have all these blood tests, you go to a report that you can send to the patient with what you suggest and start taking your pictures. What is the advantage? That you end up in this paper here, this screen, where you see all the questionnaires, all the tests and everything, and you will take yourself a decision which of the 6 types of hair loss you have. There are 11 causes and 6 types. A cause is, for instance, genetic, is a cause. Another cause is deficiencies that you have. You lack iron, you lack copper, you lack zinc. Hormones is another cause. Androgens or other internal diseases is another cause. And each time you give that a certain importance. That's why you have small bars and large bars. After you did all this, you have to take a decision. And you decide whether it's androgenetic alopecia, telogen effluvium, chronic or aigu, that means acute, okay? If you have an anagen effluvium, if you have diseases of the scalp or the hair, okay? Or lesions at the root or the hair shaft. So you take these decisions and then you can only start to take the protocols for hair loss. Now, what we do is, when we make publicity on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is on hair loss, we tell them it's possible that you will not be accepted. We need first to understand where, what, and when, and we send them a questionnaire about medications that they take and diseases they have. We send them a chart of hair loss and baldness. For instance, somebody like me, if I apply, I will get 6 images to choose from the Norwood scale. I will choose the bald like I am, and I will get an answer, sorry, we cannot help you, not even with a hair transplant. That's honest, and people love that. They love that very much, because we don't waste their time, we don't waste their money, and the ones that we accept, we can also guarantee a result. That is very important if you want to be like serious in hair loss. Okay? So
why aren't you accepted?
What do you mean?
Why you are not accepted, for example?
Because you will not have results. Take for instance me. If you accept me as a patient, what would you propose?
Why are not, no, this is a question. Why there are not results for someone like you?
You tell me, you're a therapist.
There are no follicles.
You don't know? Give me an option.
Hereditary?
No. Give me an option what I should do. I want more hair. What would you suggest me?
A wig?
What? A wig? Thank you very much. I bought a cap. Okay,
That's
see?
a nice Panama hat.
You understand what I mean? If you can't help me, you know that. I know that as a therapist. So we don't waste each other's time. Good? If I have a little bit more hair, I might be a candidate for hair transplant, according to how much I have here and how much I'm losing there. Okay? Then there are cases where I will be a candidate for other technologies. Okay, but it's very important to see the patient and to tell him you're not for us or you are for us. Because otherwise, you will ruin the reputation of your center. Okay? Good. Let's look at the causes of androgenetic alopecia, which is the most common one. Okay? The most common one is androgenetic alopecia. So first of all, to the genetics, we can't do anything. Secondly, even the DHT, or everybody is talking about DHT, it's defined genetically, which means it is a sensitivity to DHT, and not the amount of DHT in your blood, not even the DHT in your hair follicle. If you are sensitive, you can only castrate people, but this is not an option. So it's not a really good tool to work with. Vascular treatment, there are no treatments for red blood cell flow in the capillaries as we saw this morning with the small capillaries and the red blood cell going through. We have in the arterioles like minoxidil. Yes, this we have. But not in the capillaries where it really counts, where there is really an exchange of oxygen in the very small vessels that are 4 microns thick. And this is the ones that we need. So minoxidil is not an option. Okay? Now, if you go to DHT hormonal and you start using finasteride, it's not an option either because you want to preserve the hair follicles from the age of 15 till the age of 85. At 15, you can sell your testosterone, not a problem. But at 15, you will have to buy it back. So you will have to stop. And everything that you gained all these years, you will lose it. So it's not an option. If you cannot go till the end, it's not an option. See what I mean? Good. You cannot work with PRP injections or exosomes or peptides or whatsoever your whole life because it's, first of all, painful. You cannot start at 15, 16 years with that, and it's expensive, and people will not continue coming. So that's not an option either. But because electromodulation is a pleasant experience, really calming and pleasant, and it touches the microcirculation, it becomes an interesting solution. It connects the nervous system to the bulge and to the bulb where you have the stem cells and the melanocytes. So you get new stem cells and you get the pigmentation to fight you gray hair. You have a lymphatic component to the hair follicles which you drain, which no other treatment does. You cut down the inflammation because of the electrons that you use and because of the substances that you infiltrate. Magnesium is a very strong anti-inflammatory solution. And then you create a cell connectivity so that the hair follicle works as one unit. All these elements together have a tremendous effect on the growth of your hair follicle. And you see, we want to have the small vessels in the papilla. We want to have the nerves of the bulge and the bulb. These are elements that nobody does. And so we divided the whole idea of electromodulation for hair in 5 indications. We say hair preservation is the cheapest and the best way to keep your hair. As long as your hair follicle is still alive, you can feed them and get very nice hair, continuous growth. Once it starts to become dormant hair follicles, sleeping hair follicles, you already have to make an effort, and not everything succeeds. So we say, depending on the stage of dormant hair follicles, we can recuperate between 30 and 10% of your hair back. But don't wait till you lose them, because once you lose them too much, you can only a hair transplant can save you in the beginning. Then the hair loss, telogen effluvium acute comes back most of the time. But some people panic and they want the support till it's gone, and I understand them, but it's not a strict necessity. Then we have a very great indication, it's hair repair. What does it mean? You have healthy hair follicles, your hair is growing, everything is fine, but you decided to have longer hair, or you decided to have a perm, and you start damaging your own hair follicles, although they are from nature unhealthy, and it starts to crack and not being okay. These are candidates that are very well, and they come to you, they have very fast results. 4 sessions, they've got strong roots again, because they never had a hair problem to start with. They created their own hair problem. And hairdressers are very happy with us, because they can continue putting their extensions, they continue to do the bleachings, they continue their perms, etc., without having to deal with broken and damaged hairs, because we repair them. Next one is very interesting. Once you transplanted your hair, if you have to wait 2-3 weeks till you can inject PRP, you're better off starting the 2nd or the 3rd day with electromodulation, because it's not invasive. So you can start regenerating your hair follicles, the transplanted ones, at a very early stage. And then we all know that hair transplants are never exactly like your natural ones. They don't have the same angle. They don't have the same inclinations, distribution, etc. you. And so you have to save your normal hair, and thus you become a candidate for life or electromodulation by coming once every few months to save your remaining hair. And of course, you won't need a second transplant, and some people don't even have enough hair for a second transplant. So these are great patients. They come their whole life. The hair preservation, number one, the upper one, is all life. The damaged hair follicles, they come for a very long time till they decide to do something else. And the hair protect, they come for a whole life. So people who are not candidates, I send them away for hair transplant and they come back for life. A last one is a very interesting one. And these are ladies 55, 60. They've done a lot on their face, they've done a lot on their hands, they've done a lot of expenses, liposuctions, breast, this, that. And the hair starts to be irregular in length because the anagen phase will not stay the same when you age. You will have short and long hairs. That's why the hairdresser says, Mrs., it's time to cut the hair short, like here. She says, oh no, I don't want to look like all my friends. I did all the efforts, I want to stay with long hairs, and I don't want extensions. That's where they do the electromodulation to keep the anagen phase long. Of course, these are ladies that have time, that have the effort and the means to do that, but you know, when you're 65, you have all that. And so, you get a client base that comes for life, and you will understand why REYU is so interesting, because everybody who comes to you will come for life. Aging is not something that stops after one injection. It's not something that you can reverse with a few injections. So you have to come regularly to keep yourself in shape. So you will have the people for the skin, the people for the facial shape, the people for the hair, who will come to you every month, approximately, every 2 months, every 3 months. And so you will see that with 500 patients, you are totally full in your center. Now, injections in the scalp. Everybody thinks it's an easy thing, but look, this is a 300 micron needle, your thinnest needle that you will use, and this is a hair follicle. You understand what an aggression that is? To drill into the head, it's painful, it's thicker than the hair, it would cut your hair follicles in two, and there is no way you can put the fluid in the scalp, so you will have to put it under the scalp. Now, we have a delivery system through the capillaries to bring fluids to our cells. Like very tiny capillaries of 4 microns. It's like if you would distribute in the south of Italy through very small narrow streets, you would distribute the mail for each box, okay? Or where you have all the small pipes to have a shower by you at home. All of a sudden, they don't use this pathway. This comes under the dermis. They put a big load of fluid, and it will overflow your cells, and this is the way you will receive the product. It's like I would say, you know what? I cannot enter in the streets of Bucharest. I will drop a few million hectoliters near the airport, and because the inclination is towards Bucharest, we will give you like a small tsunami. It will overflow all of Bucharest, and that's how you will have your shower once a month. You don't want that. You want to be able to open the crane of your shower in every little hole. But it doesn't happen with an injection. An injection is like a flood. Okay? It doesn't enter your cells in a normal way, through the capillaries. Here we're coming to pictures. This is side by side, exactly the same spot after 3 sessions. This is a guy, he's a famous guy. His name is Frédéric Landy. He is the right hand of the art director Galliano of Dior. If you heard about him, it was a scandal a few years ago. Anyways, he came to me after a transplant and he said, I want injections of PRP like most of them do. I told him, you don't do that. Please listen to me. Go and get electromodulation. So he did it. He's so super happy. He makes publicity for us. Although he's famous, he makes publicity with us, with his face, with everything. And he's a fan. I cannot say something else, but it's nice to have a famous person as a fan. Now, I don't like these these results and I don't like these pictures. Why? Because I want the man who is on the left here to come to me 10 years earlier and do 4 sessions a year. I don't want them to come too late and then force me to recuperate with 6 sessions, one after the other. No. Why don't you come before there is a real problem? Don't come when you're already in trouble and you want me to recuperate. It goes, but your chances are 30%. Come earlier and your chances are 100% not to be bought. Same with this guy. I don't like it. I would like him to come 15 years earlier and have just a session every 3 months. Be happy till the end of his life. Same here. We don't want these people. We want them to understand that he has to come, like not in 2025, but in 2010, and have his sessions regularly. Because now it puts me under a pressure to regain his hair, and that's not very nice for me, and not very nice for him, because he needs more sessions. We always give hair vitamins. They are completely biological. I know you're looking at the pills that are green. This is chlorophyll, 100% natural. And they contain everything that you need for your hair, including rare elements like copper. Copper is essential because it works as a precursor for zinc and for iron. They need this copper to function. It has vitamin D. And vitamin D is very important because if you have a young guy, 15 years old, God bless you, a young guy, 15 years old, who is losing his hair, the first thing you have to think about is vitamin D. And why do they lack vitamin D? Very simple. When the sun is shining, they are sleeping, and when the moon comes out, they are playing video games. And they never see the sun. I don't know. They don't live from vitamin D. They are all deficient. We should maybe send them to the screen vitamin D. But this is what they are. They sleep when the sun is shining, and they play video games when the sun goes down, and they never see the sun. A lot of other elements are in these capsules at least 1 time the daily rate, and sometimes twice the daily rate, a double dose of the daily rate. You give them in the autumn, where you have the weakest hair follicle is in the autumn, like September, October, November, 3 months, and you definitely, that's enough for the year. The same thing happens here. We don't like these people. We want them to come earlier. We don't want to recuperate when you're too late. Okay? We don't want to repair your car when you already have an accident. We want to teach you how to drive before that. We can do that. It's more expensive. It's not invasive at all. And if you look at blonde hair, which is very difficult to correct, we see nice results in blonde hair, and you see that you need 6 months at least. Never judge hair loss after a month or 2, always after 6 months. Even if you do only 1 week a session, it will show itself, the results will show itself 6 months later. Here we follow the patient from A to Z over several months. Same thing here. This will continue to grow, but come earlier. Please come earlier. These are the 6 essential activities: enhancing the microcirculation, connecting the nerves, draining the toxins, degranulating the platelets so we have a natural PRP, reducing the inflammation, and connecting the follicles as one capillary unit. This is so far for hair. If you stick to the guidelines, and you will have them all, you will have a very, very successful clinic for hair, and everybody will be happy because you never lied to a patient, and they get exactly what they expected. And this is a very important thing, to get what you expected. Here we have a list of functional health. I believe you asked about functional health. You can take a picture of that. I'll tell you what the key elements are. First of all the articulatory problems, articulations and inflammation around the articles, and management of sports injuries.
Secondly is pain management in general, because it's a problem of afferent and efferent nerve in the pain. Acute pain is normal. Chronic pain is not normal. Chronic pain is something was stuck in the system and you cannot get rid of it. So when we synchronize the nerves, everything comes back into place. So that goes quite quickly. Constipation, we saw that you can activate the bowel and have more bowel activity. The nice part is you get the stool in a normal consistency, not in a diarrhea form, which is very good for your microbiome and everything. It's not like taking pills, okay? We do a spine reset, which is quite impressive. You know, the last 3 months of the gestation in utero, we are like in a very fetal position, so we are totally in a round position and for months. And then the first moment where we get like an osteopathic treatment is when we are born through a natural way. And when we are born through a natural way, the natural birth canal gives you the first osteopathic treatment where you get the spine rectified, okay? To get you, it's not, and has a coincidence that this is the birth channel restores your neck and restores your spine. But even then, ancient cultures in the East, there is a lady which is called the doula. She takes the baby with her thumb under the palate, hangs the baby like 3.5 kilo on the thumb, and then she goes and she massages the vertebrae with hot oil and herbs to get the first osteopathic treatment. Okay? I advise for my grandchildren to go to an osteopath specialized in newborn babies who does the he redresses the vertebrae and brings them into shape because they've been too long in the womb. It works very, very, very well. Okay? You see the babies go calm, etc. If you have people who are about to give birth, tell them that. It's really important. 2 sessions is enough. And what we do is, of course, 90% of us will have a back pain one time or another in his life. We redress the muscles around the spine to get it better. Next one is nasal breathing. A lot of people have a problem here, so we work on opening the nostrils and get the air in. And because this influences also the shape of your face. People who breathe through the mouth and people who breathe through the nose, they have different shapes of faces. And it's much nicer. If you can breathe through the nose, you get a much nicer face, more harmonious development of the bone. We have a dentist here. You do know that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's very important.
Yes, so we do that. Of course, the doses of the Botox, we talked already about that. Wound care, of course. Total vagal nerve reset to bring in harmony the brain, the heart, and the intestines, and to reduce stress. People who get a total vagal nerve reset, they sleep till the next day, 10 o'clock. They're out. Don't let them do anything after that. Ask them to come in the evening, and from there on, straight home and sleep. We have done that in our clinic when we do trainings in Riga. So we had the husband of one of the therapists. So he said, yes, me, I'm feeling good, okay, I'm not tired, nothing. So we did a vagal nerve reset. In the restaurant, he fell asleep. I mean, you cannot help it. But you wake up the next morning, you're very refreshed. All the mental part of mental relaxation, our lady there that just had the treatment knows that. People who are very anxious, people who cannot concentrate, people who have depressions, people who cannot sleep, they all benefit from this mental relaxation. And we talked about it that psychologists buy that to do that. But we also saw recently for people who do psychotherapy, and you will notice that when you do the treatments, people start to open up. They don't have this inhibition of the prefrontal cortex. You know, we are
we have a certain inhibition here of the prefrontal cortex, so we don't tell people what we mean, and we're not rude, and we are social, and we're nice people, till we lose that ability, okay? So once you relax that, they start to talk to the therapist openly, without any inhibition. And when the therapist talks to them on what to do, they also absorb it totally. So this could be a very good tool for psychotherapy, for psychotherapists in general. Now, you can use that in your salon, because you know, after a while, you're also kind of a psychotherapist, by knowing the patient, talking to the patient, etc. So you can ease their mental pain and help them to go through, and they're very happy. And this is a real addiction. People come back and back and back and back to you. Also people who come for hair loss, men who come for hair loss, they don't even care about the hair after a while, just come for this mental relaxation that they get by treating the cortex of their skull. So they are very, very, very happy. Plus the vagal nerve, who will come to you from time to time. So you understand that you have a recurrent situation. So don't ask how many sessions. People will keep coming. And you can organize your clinic very easily. Because you know, this one comes every month, this one comes every week, this one comes every 2 months, and every 3 months. The schedule is set for life. After a while, you cannot accept a new client at all, and this happens usually when you have reached a few hundred clients. It's finished, closed. You have to close your agenda or buy another device and open a new cabinet. So max 500 people you can accept, and then it's over for life. So calculate how many people around you, and then you know how big your center can be. Okay, so we go into the vagal nerve stimulation. We know where the vagal nerve goes. Very important. Sports injuries, very well, because you're anti-inflammatory, you drain the fluids, you control the pain, you create PRP on the spot, okay? So there's a lot happening there. You're anti-inflammatory. This is one of our engineers who is a top sports person, and he was injured on his knee. He had all kinds of treatment, nothing helped. Then we did the electromodulation on him, and he regained the national team, and they won the gold medal. So it's very, very impressive for sports people. Arterial ulcers, very complicated, but if you deal with the microcirculation, it goes very well. Rare case of ulcerative psoriasis. We treat normal psoriasis, yes, that's not a problem, but ulcerative psoriasis, they evolve. Usually the picture that you see totally on the left is the beginning. From there on it spreads over, and here we contain everything and we heal it nicely in 10 days. This is quite a success. This is post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, acid on the feet in India, and you see how slowly and gradually you remove this hyperpigmentation. This is not finished, this is just the beginning. Scars, hypertrophic scars in the beginning, when they just happened, you can reduce them. Gynecology and andrology, I think we talked about it. Men and women suffer, and if you want to know how many, about 65% of men and women over 50. That is a lot. That's about 15% of the population with a normal population distribution. How many people do we have in Romania? 20 million? About? Yes? 15%? That is 3 million? Yes? 3 million people. Every 500 people you have one center. So you just calculate. We didn't figure in young women who just gave birth or others, but just regular 3 million people. These are clients that never heard about you, new clients. Totally new, which is fine. You don't have to fight in the same pool of clients. You have new ones. We treat the urinary leakage, and for the men it's exactly the opposite. He wakes up at night several times. We have erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, but mind you, they depend on 2 other factors. they depend on a hormonal factor, and they depend on desire, which we don't control. The tone and the pelvic and the muscles and the pain, these are fascia related, works very well. And of course the sensory nerves, okay, we call it the Valentine's treatment. Fine. So female intimacy responds very well. We get results after the first session, and we see that worldwide improvement after 4 sessions is nearly 80%, and you can reach 100% after 6 to 8 sessions. I present you here Dr. Matule, which is Vice President of the Latvian Society of Gynecology. She's second generation. Her father was Professor of Gynecology and founded the faculty at the university, so a dynasty of 70 years gynecology. She's famous and extremely serious. Every word she tells you, it is either true or she doesn't open her mouth. She's known for that. She made a study for us. Oh, we need the microphone where.
I will go to the former one. You tell me when. Da.
I'm a gynecologist working almost 40 years, and one of our topics, what we speak with women around perimenopause, is urinary problems, urinary incontinence, and the main question which was asked, can you help me? It's so inconvenient that quality of life is changing, and are there methods to help, not only surgical? So we have now new method called REYU. It's a biovitalization of tissue, and it's giving back, I would say, new life to tissues that are becoming older with time, and new life, it means better quality of life.
So it's brief, but you got an honest advice of a very respected
Gynecologist, she's not the only one. We have 10 or 12 on the website who will tell you exactly the same thing. Professor Nicolas Berenghi is a French one. He's very specialized in pain, like perineal pain, and he presented it in Monaco at the Anti-Aging Conference of Monaco, if you know about it. Okay? So it's a famous World Congress of Rejuvenation. So here we are. The reason why it works is mainly this schematic. You have from thoracal 12 to L2 these autonomous nerves that come out, sympathetic and parasympathetic. They contract the vessel and they relax the urethra, or they do exactly the opposite. And we see also that we have a small motor nerve at the end of the urethra, which gives us a slight control till we find a quiet place in nature where we can urinate without fear of animals. Now it's to find the toilet, but you cannot keep on that alone. It's mainly to stop it for a few minutes, but all the rest goes autonomously, so we have to repair the autonomous nervous system. Of course, you get benefits for the pelvic floor, you get benefits on the vaginal muscles, which people like very much because it tightens them. The protocol is very simple. You don't remove your underwear, you work around it, okay? And so the major advantages are, first of all, you can delegate it, that's for sure. You have a global approach of the region, like always with biomodeling. You go from the bladder to the genitals, everything is in harmony with each other, and you can repair, and you never know what will be repaired first. Of course, we know that urinary problems repair first, but then you don't know if it's the dryness or it's the muscles, but usually the muscles follow at last. Second advantage that we have is impossible indications or very complicated ones. Pain, cystitis, and genital muscles are very, very difficult problems to treat, and so it's treated. Of course, it's the effect of the fascia there. Now, for male intimacy, everything runs practically the same thing, except that they have prostate in between, which makes things a little bit more slow than for women, because the urethra is longer, the prostate is in between, but it works after 5-6 sessions, you get great results. Of course, it will have an effect on erectile dysfunction, but this is a topic which is totally different that we can address for those who want the device for these type of treatments. Protocol and how to deal with it is very easy. You activate on the back, you activate on the front, and you activate the inguinal area, and you activate the pudendal nerve from which everything goes out, and there you are with all the results that you need to have. And the pudendal nerve is not so easy to find, but when you go from the anus and you go 2 centimeters laterally, and you press till 6 centimeters laterally, at a certain moment, you will feel like an irradiation to the front of the sensations. And that's when you know that you are on the pudendal nerve, and there you stay about 5 minutes for activation. These are the tips for gynecological stimulation, and we do that mainly if there is a problem of the mucosa inside. Not for the urinary problems, not for the muscles, but if there is a local mucosa problem, this can help you. And it can be a lot of every sort, like lichen planus, like atrophy of the mucosa and things like that. Instead of working with a laser and burning the mucosa, we rejuvenate and regenerate it. So we have this homeostasis based on self-healing, just like with the rest of the body. And of course, self-healing and management of self-healing is the future of medicine. Even if you operate, you need to count on the self-healing to deal with the wounds. I wrote a book about that. It's on my website. You can download that. And although the last word about bioelectrostimulation has not been said, I believe that we know enough to get great results for the wounds. So I thank you very much and free for questions.
Thank you.
So go ahead if you have some questions.
What about the latest discussing for urinary incontinence?
Yes.
How many sessions will resolve if there are different types of, or how you are going to approach this?
Well, we have 2 types of urinary. The bladder is not full, okay? So you got an urge and you run to the toilet, but there's not really much in the bladder. So the second one is the stress, which means the bladder is not full, but when you jump on the trampoline with your grandchildren or with your children, or you go and run for sports, you got leakage. You don't want that. So these are the 2. We must, of course, exclude tumors with fistula. We must exclude prolapses of the uterus, prolapses of the rectum. But if you have no problems whatsoever anatomically, you checked all that, and it's only these 2, you will have a great success. If the patient is like 40 years old, it's like from the first session that you see the results, and she's not too heavy, I mean, not a BMI of 35, but 25, 27, you will have quick results. Okay? And they are largely overweight. You might have to wait 3-4 sessions before you see results.
But you will see results, okay? It's not that you will see results. We had a patient who had a stoma because of a tumor. They removed a vertebra from the back with the cancer, and the bowel didn't work, so she had to have a stoma, very invalidating. We worked about 8-9 months before the motility was restored of the intestine and the stoma was removed. But if you're persistent, you know, it's physiological. If you ask me, Ilan, you go to the gym, when will you see results? I can tell you 2 things. I will have 100% results, even if I start with a ½ kilo on each hand, and you know, and these weights like on 5-10 kilos. After a while, increase that and I will have results. There is no way that you go to the gym 3 times a week and you increase the weight and you don't have results, okay? So that's exactly the same thing. Nobody leaves without results because you're stimulating the body, so at a certain point you will have what you need. Okay? So that is important to me.
Good to know.
Sunt 3 persoane care vor rămâne astăzi după prezentare. Vom continua și vom mai face un tratament.
Da?
Da. Avem și
Go ahead.
o doritoare.
Go for it. Look, you've got more than 3. Yes, the whole. Go ahead. Mulțumesc. Thank you very much. All the best. Okay.
Da, și mai urmă să